Welcome to SicEm365 Radio.
Brewer in trouble again.
Wow,
Look
did
at
you
him
see
bounce
that
out. There he goes. He's got a first down and more.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
SicEm365. Too strong. Gillespie on the offensive glass. Slips underneath Maddox and got it done.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Good pass protection pickup right there by Lovett. The pass is caught by Snead. Changes directions. Snead reaching.
Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on this Thursday afternoon. This week is flying by. Well, sometimes you might think it is, and then there's time, just like, oh my God, it's only Wednesday or Thursday. I got to tell you a story about today's guest list. Robert Blackmon, former Seattle Seahawk, longtime Baylor, fantastic player. He's the AD football coach at Van Vleck. He was scheduled for today, still is, at 3:30. And then also Max Olson, who's with us usually Thursdays at 4, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com at 4:30. And I put out flares, and this is what I do when I get home, and I do it when we're on the air, and I do it wherever, flares to people to be a part of the show. And so far, we've been very fortunate. A lot of people have reacted, and we knew some of these personalities, former players, coaches, whatever, in the first place. But I threw out last night, I'd say 15 or 20 flares. I didn't get even a finger back at me. Normally there's I can't do it. And I'm starting to wonder, maybe my texts aren't even going through. And so this morning I wake up, nothing, until about 10:30. So I sent out a couple of more flares, what we do. And then all of a sudden, what was it? What time did I send you?
2:15. I was on
an hour ago.
I was on the phone doing a segment in Canada with our boys in Winnipeg, and
hockey talk. Huh?
My phone was going off as they were asking me what Andy Dalton's all about.
So Butch Johnson, former Cowboys wide receiver, will join us at 4:15. Hall of Famer James Lofton, Buffalo Bills, Oakland Raiders, and obviously it may have been L.A. with him. He is going to join us here in just a little bit, in fact. In 3:15. So those are the other guests we have for today. Tomorrow, former Oilers and Cowboys receiver Mike Renfro. He made that catch in the back of the end zone in that famous game with the Steelers. Replay would have said he caught it, but it was ruled incomplete. Steelers went on to win another world championship. Also tomorrow, Tony Casillas, former Oklahoma All-American, and then also former Cowboys and Falcons defensive lineman, along with Grayson Grundhafer on recruiting. Do you care about the schedules being released tonight in the NFL?
Not particularly. That's one of the things we talked about in Winnipeg today. He said that's the only thing we've got other than the Korean Baseball League. I said, I have a feeling I'll turn it on, and then when they say Cowboys versus Giants week 1, I'm going to the hell with this. I'm going to turn it off.
Yeah, even though that's not supposed to happen this time, right? It's supposed to be Rams, I guess. It's the possible opener, the opener that's expected. But, yeah, it would not shock me to see the Giants listed as the Cowboys' first opponent. I'm in the middle on it. I think if you're overly excited about it, I would love to know what gets you so excited about just learning who people are playing. I think there's a level of excitement to it, but am I anxiously awaiting it? No, I'm not anxiously awaiting the unveiling, but it'll be cool when it happens, and I'll stew on it for a few minutes. But beyond that, it's not really that big of a deal.
I'm not going home to watch it.
No,
I'm not. It's not. It's going to be one of those where I guess I'll be working on even maybe tomorrow's show or some academic all-stars, whatever, and the next thing you know, I'll realize there's a little bit of chatter about it. And, of course, it doesn't really affect us. We cover the Cowboys, and we will, thanks to Whitney and Joe and Scott and Rich and others. But, we know who they're going to play. We just don't know when, and we don't know prime time. That's the thing a lot of people love, to be able to hit the 6 prime time games, whatever.
So
what's the stretch in November, December where you play 3 games in a row at home or on the road?
Yeah.
Winter games.
I can't remember quite when this movie came out. It's probably been 10 years or so, but Zach Burke and I, our former producer, went to see it because it had an actor in it, Patton Oswalt, who's a comedian who we're a big fan of, and the movie's called Big Fan, and it's about this loser guy who lives in his mom's basement and calls like calls one of the sports talk radio shows and talks trash. He's in a Giants fan. He'll call like a Philly show and talk trash and all these different things. And he witnesses, he gets beaten up by one of the Giants players, and he won't press charges because he doesn't want to hurt the Giants. But there's 2 scenes in the movie where like he and his friend at the beginning and the end of the movie are like going through the schedule, going and like counting out wins for the Giants. They're like, oh, that's at least 13-3. And I think of that every time the NFL schedule release comes out, is guys like that going, well, I mean, the team I like is going at least 12-4. I mean, 12-4 is the bottom, and that's if our quarterback gets hurt. That's how it.
Yeah, I used to sit there, and when the schedule came out, I'd go game by game, and I always was probably, I don't know if I was more lenient or tough. I don't know. I don't do that anymore, but okay, that's 12-4. It used to be easier to do that. If you write down 8-8 for the Cowboys, give or take 2, isn't that what's going to happen, right? So that comes out tonight. I saw somebody react to I believe it was Adam Schefter put out something this morning about the game. The games are going to be released on whatever, and someone responded to him. It's only the freaking football schedule. It's not the cure for coronavirus. Stop. Get over yourself. It's like people are so even then.
But then again, you don't even know who's trolling and who's just legitimately angry, off their rocker, and that's what's weird about social media. Is there are people that, and like it's fun to me to like troll my friends on certain stuff, to a certain point. You troll them and you get a little laugh and you move on. But I have never understood the mindset of the person who gets enjoyment out of sitting on social media all day to troll people and try to upset them. I just think that's such a miserable existence that somebody must live. And then there's the people who I would have to say would be an equally miserable existence who are legit angry that Adam Schefter's talking about the NFL schedule.
Yeah.
Because, my God, we all need to shut everything down and only talk about coronavirus all day. No, thank you. You go right ahead with your judgment and what you prefer to do, but the rest of us are going to go about living our lives.
Yeah. Well, here's a note. I got this note about Baylor, and Dr. Livingstone had mentioned that they have some timelines to eventually reopen the campus, right? Well, a couple of things here. This is from what the Presidential Council, the COVID Task Force and Presidential Council at Baylor has approved for the campus to give private tours for accepted seniors May 18th through the 29th in an effort to close out the class before June 1st deadline. The tours will look very different than any of the normal operations. For example, the tour guides and guests will all wear masks, will have limited entry into buildings. There will be 2 rows between the guides and the guests and the carts. So this was something that, that's just a kind of part of the weeds coming through the grass early on in the spring before they die out because of the heat. We've seen what baseball's trying to do. We've seen what NFL has told about reopening possibly the facilities. I spoke today with a couple of high school coaches that, the Texas High School Coaches Association had their, I don't know if it was a board or a regional meeting, whatever, about, there's this June 15th date, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then if that doesn't work, then it's July. And so all these things are starting to, they're out there. And now there's at least maybe something where you could grab onto it. Whether it comes to fruition or not, we don't know.
What I hope is that there's plans out there. Okay, if we can't start July 1st, we can start July 15th. If we can't start July 15th, we can start August 1st. And just moving on down the line to have plans in place in case those things don't work out.
The NFL told teams to have reopening protocols in place by May 15th, which is next week.
Yeah.
It's a week from tomorrow. And, of course, there's a lot of the state, local government plays a part of it. All the things that goes into the infection control officers and all that kind of stuff.
Did you see what happened in Oregon today? Because that was pretty substantial.
No.
The governor of Oregon came out and she said that the state is going to go ahead, or at least the state is looking at going ahead and preparing for no gatherings through September. Well, wow. Oregon plays Ohio State in Olson, in Eugene this September. So looks like that game won't happen. It would make sense to just shift it to Columbus and then flip the rematch. If there is a rematch, I'm not even sure. But if just flip the home and home, if you can do it that way. But, yeah, Kate Brown, the governor, said the state's moving towards reopening up in phases, but she did deliver the news that sporting events are still far from being cleared. saying there's difficult news to share. Large gatherings, including live sporting events with audiences, concerts, festivals, and conventions will not be able to return until we have a reliable treatment or prevention like a vaccine. So Oregon, no events for you until like next January, basically. If you go by what she said, that means they're not going to have anything for another year, basically. So that makes no sense. But the Oregon Health Authority, she said, was advising that any large gathering through September should be canceled. So that's going to have a significant impact. And we were just talking yesterday with Mac Rhodes. The first thought is, well, wow, they've got Ohio State and they've got another, I think, pretty good non-con opponent that would also have to be canceled or flipped to the other venues. But, the Pac-12, we were talking about that yesterday with Mac Rhodes about the conferences, and if some can't go, what does that mean for others? And he felt that if the Big 12 had the all clear for all 10 schools in the states, but the Pac-12 didn't, that the Big 12 is going to go play football because they need to, they have to. But, if you're the Pac-12 right now, I would see this story today and go, uh-oh. You're already kind of on edge as is, but now you're like, okay, the state of Oregon, that's two of our schools, and our best school at the moment in football, saying that they're not going to play at home through September.
Yeah, you know what I think is strange about her saying that is, okay, there's probably not going to be a vaccine by September. That's really
not.
That's ridiculously ambitious based on scientific testing. But by September, there might be treatment for the symptoms that would allow people to stay out of the hospitals, which is what this is all about. It's not like we're not going to cure the disease right away, but if we can find a way to treat the symptoms so that people who get it don't get as severely ill, then that's not as good, but it's getting the ball to the goal line. It's part of the drive. So, yeah, I mean, that would that would change things.
Real quick note, we take a break, come back with Hall of Famer James Lofton. From Jeff Goodman, the Jimmy V Classic at Madison Square Garden. Following matchups in December, third-ranked Gonzaga versus 20th-ranked Tennessee. Again, these are at least preseason rankings to who depends on the Baylor and Rutgers.
Oh, nice.
And Rutgers is a top 25 team, top 15 or 20 team. Baylor right here, Jeff Goodman saying that they're the number one ranked team. Again, that depends on which preseason poll, and it also will depend on Jared Butler and Macy Oteague, even though they'll be ranked pretty high anyway. And again, who knows what's going to happen between now and December. All right, so another Hall of Famer, James Lofton, went to Stanford. He's been a broadcaster. He was a track star. And, of course, Pro Football Hall of Famer, Bills, Raiders, and more. He'll join us. And then former Baylor All-American Robert Blackmon. This is SicEm365 Radio. Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at IdealMRI.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on SicEm365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac, located at the Imperial Drive exit off Loop 340 in Waco. Proud supporters of all Baylor Athletics.
We'll have Hall of Famer James Lofton momentarily, then Robert Blackmon, also Max Olson, Mickey Spagnola, Butch Johnson, some of the guests we have for today's show. So, yesterday, Dave Aranda went 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. We had about 8 or 9 before we had to do the show at 3, and thanks to Rachel, Kate, and Taylor Bryan for setting that up. I thought, Paul, one of the things I've noticed about him is that, you hear about how he's obviously very soft-spoken. He's not a rah-rah guy, at least not in these settings. But one thing I've noticed about him, he's very prepared, which you should be. You're head football coach at Baylor, and you just won a national championship. But if you ask him something, he will absolutely dive into it. It's not like he gives you the short, curt answers.
No, he is very different from Matt Rule. I thought who was it that was talking yesterday?
Dean Jackson?
Jerry Hill, when he was talking about transcribing Aranda's interviews and how it's so different from transcribing Matt Rule's. He's so right, because a 20-minute Matt Rule interview would take me like a couple hours to get through just with how fast he talks and all the things that he says, whereas like a 45-minute Dave Aranda interview I could probably knock out in about an hour, which is weird, but that's just the difference in how those two deliver their words. But yeah, Aranda's very thoughtful in what he has to say. He's soft-spoken, sure, but I think he's the kind of guy that maybe speaks softly and yet carries a big stick, and that's kind of how I view him. There's no doubt he's got respect. There's no doubt he knows what he's doing. He's a very, very good coach, and I just think that, he's got a little bit of a different delivery than your typical rah-rah, in-your-face type of a guy, and my biggest question as far as that goes is not are these players going to be prepared, it's just, where's that fire going to come from? And we've heard former players of his say, even though he speaks softly, he'll still get you fired up. He'll still get you ready to go. So, yeah, it's a different approach. It's a different sound than we're used to, but it's very thoughtful. It's very well thought out, and it's very informative.
When I asked him the question yesterday, would you have taken this job, not to go back on that, but here's what could have happened. Some guys would have acted differently. Because when you ask a question that's a yes-no answer, you can get burned with that. Would you have taken this job had you known what you know now? And he said yes, and that could have been it. And that would have been my fault, not his. And then he dove in to why.
Yeah. By the way, James Lofton in 5 minutes or so. Just he's running a little behind. So.
Okay.
You may have to text Robert Blackmon and can we stagger that a little bit?
I think we can. Yeah.
Bump you a little for a Hall of Famer.
Would you do that, or would you get no?
No, I've been bumped for Hall of Famers before, so I know how it is. So if we can just do he even said 3:30 might be better. If we could stagger to 3:30 and 3:45 would be ideal. But
yeah, I'll text Robert right now. Yeah. I will. Well, you guys, but there's if a guy answers a question and it's a yes/no question with yes or no, whose fault is that?
That's the person who asked it. Sometimes you just want to hear yes or no.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll ask a question and I want to hear yes or no. That's all I need to hear. And then if I hear what I, get the answer, then maybe I can say, can you expand on that? But there's a lot I've seen many times. Somebody will ask a question of a coach in a post-game press conference. Coach, did so-and-so happen in the fourth quarter like you wanted? No.
Like Popovich?
Yeah. No.
Which I think, there's times where a coach has every right to kind of poke at the reporter, and I know that they're not always on the best of terms with the media, but, I find the way Pop does it now more often than not, and I know you guys are Pop fans and Spurs fans, but I find it to be almost like not even cool anymore. It's kind of funny at first, and now it's just kind of like, just play along with them. Just like, what they're trying to do, and even if they don't ask it the right way, like I get trying to like train them on the job, but just give them a little bit of a bone sometimes and just answer the dadgum question.
You know what I think he's become? He was that way anyway. But what I now think is that he is now trying to be something that, it's almost like he's read as too many headlines and he's a Hall of Fame coach. Yeah. There's a point, especially if you have some young reporter. Now, you got to teach people lessons too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I get that, but there's no reason to be like that more often than not.
Right, that's my point.
Especially with the people who see you every day.
Who was the one that a college, Gino, who's fantastic, captures a room. We've seen him in the press conference settings let's say 3 or 4 times. There was a newspaper reporter that I think may have written something that he didn't like, and it was a college kid, and he just dressed her down. And I just thought, that could have been done in private.
Well, okay, I'll just give you the best example that I know, because the guy I know the best is Scott Drew. If somebody writes something that Scott Drew doesn't like, he will call them and he'll say, like, look, hey, I don't like what you wrote, and here's why. And they'll talk it out. He won't wait for that person to show up in a press conference and then grandstand him.
Right, yeah, I don't like the grandstand. I think that's the term I was probably looking for, and I feel like Pop grandstands quite a bit now. Doesn't take away from the type of coach he is or how great of a coach he is, but I just, being on the media side of things, I certainly don't have a ton of sympathy for everybody in this profession. In fact, there's a lot of people in this profession I don't like, and I don't like the way they go about doing things. But hey, to each their own, what have you. But at the same time, there are younger reporters that don't know any better, and you just lambasting them to embarrass them because you're just not having it at that moment. I don't like when coaches go that route, and players go that route sometimes too. And I know it can be equally annoying on their side. The media takes what they say, and that's why they have to be so careful, and then spins it. So, it definitely goes both ways. It's unfortunate when you have those little bit of skirmishes and what have you, but yeah, it's just part of the deal.
James Lofton, Pro Football Hall of Famer. We've had James on the show on some Super Bowl radio rows. He's also been in the broadcast business. Went to Stanford, played for the Packers, Raiders, Bills, Rams, and Eagles, and also as a coach with the Chargers and Raiders. He now joins us on SicEm365 Radio. James, thank you very much for being a part of the show today. When you found out, when you got, I don't know if it was the knock on the door back then, with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you're probably huddled in, or maybe you weren't. I don't know where you might have been, but what was that? Can you kind of take us through that moment and the anxiety, the excitement?
No, the knock had not been created at that time. It was 2003. It was around the Super Bowl, which was being held in San Diego, and I was downtown in the Prada area. And I was about to go on a little cable TV show with Ron Thulin, who works out of San Antonio, who I've worked with on Big 12 football, and Emmitt Smith. And so I'm kind of there waiting, and my cell phone rang, and it was the Pro Football Hall of Fame telling me that, I was going to be in the class of 2003.
James, wide receivers kind of after and in that era were, it was almost like you had to wait your turn for so long. And then it seems like now we get, one a year that people are kind of, the dam is burst. Do you think you were part of that dam bursting to get wide receivers in?
I think just the shift in the way that the game is played. In 1978, my rookie year, the year prior, the leading receiver on the Green Bay Packers had 28 receptions. Now that's about a good month for a wide receiver during the course of the regular season.
Yeah.
So it has truly shifted the way that the game is played. When you look at the all-pro teams now, you even put 3 wide receivers on the first team. You have the outside receivers, you have the slot receiver, and then you look at your tight end position, and they're catching a ton of passes, and you're looking at running backs who can do that dual duty, who can run the ball and also catch the ball really well out the backfield.
James, you're an LA guy, went to high school in Los Angeles, played for the Raiders, played for the Rams. LA's got 2 teams once again with the Chargers and the Rams now. What do you think it is about LA and football? There's talk about, there's so many things to do out there. Can it be supported, 2 teams? We've tried this before. Just what are your thoughts in general on pro football in LA and the fandom out there?
So I live in San Diego, which is about 125 miles away from Los Angeles and downtown Los Angeles. And I was in Los Angeles about 3 or 4 months ago, and I was astonished because I didn't know that there were 2 separate soccer stadiums. And so you're thinking about, people like soccer, yeah, I understand that, but 2 separate soccer stadiums for 2 separate teams. So you look at the 2 basketball teams that coexist, the 2 baseball teams that coexist, and for such a long time, you had the only football that you had was the 2 collegiate teams with USC and UCLA. And so now stepping into that void, the Rams and the Chargers.
And it's that stadium is gorgeous. Is that what's going to fill up? The Rams have been good. Obviously, 2 years ago they were good. Chargers are kind of in transition with Phillip Rivers now gone and what they're trying to do. Is the stadium enough, in your opinion, in this day and age? Of course, we don't know what we're going to face in the next 2 or 3 months, but would that be enough for them to sell out?
Well, you got to remember when these owners build stadiums, they're looking at it in the long term. They're not looking at it in a 1-year turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to fill it up? They're looking at what can they use the stadium for otherwise than just football. So to have a stadium where you're going to have 2 football teams in it, where it's going to be potentially filled 17 weeks in a row during the course of the regular season, I think that's a huge bonus for the people who put up the money. The stadium is going up just down the street from my old neighborhood. I was not that far from where the Fabulous Forum and the racetracks were. And so when you see it going up, it really is something to behold.
You got to play for a lot of great coaches in your career, but probably none as great as Marv Levy when you were with the Bills. What was it about him that enabled him to make that run with the Bills so special?
So you mentioned people that I got to play for, and if you go back to my collegiate career at Stanford, the first coach that I had there for my first 3 years was Jack Christensen, who's in the Hall of Fame as a player with the Detroit Lions. The next coach who walks in is Bill Walsh. We all know he's in the Hall of Fame for all his great success that he had with the San Francisco 49ers. I go to Green Bay. I play for Bart Starr, Hall of Fame. Play for Forrest Gregg, Hall of Fame. I go to the Raiders, and Tom Flores should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Mike Shanahan takes over him, potentially a Hall of Famer. And then, like you mentioned, Marv Levy. And what made Marv Levy the coach that he was at that time, and I remember him telling me this when I was getting ready to go into coaching. He said, if you get a chance to be a head coach, let your assistant coaches and your coordinators that you hire do their job. Don't meddle with them. Don't bother them. Let them do their job and let them do it well.
James, the receivers, we just saw the NFL draft. There were a bunch of them, a lot of them that were ranked, you guys that could have been first round. One of them we covered, Denzel Mims from Baylor, a big body, made some spectacular catches. He goes in the second round. You saw the 2 kids from Alabama. The Cowboys get CeeDee Lamb. How much do you get a chance to watch the college game and understand some of the new talent that was coming in this year?
It's funny because people, since I work for CBS and they do games every weekend for them, people think, well, you must see a ton of college football. Well, not really, because we're having meetings, we're at practice with the team at the city that we're in, so you get to see a little bit. And I remember when I was coaching, I remember hearing Pete Carroll, and he was talking about when he was recruiting guys. He said, it's a 5-play guy. And I said, well, what do you mean a 5-play guy? All I need to watch is about 5 plays of him, and I can tell you what his ceiling is going to be. Now he's talking about high school students when they're coming out and getting ready to go to college. And really, you can watch highlights of somebody, but what you really want to do is you really want to watch them against their best competition. So when these scouts are out there and they're going to an Alabama or they're going to an LSU, they're seeing these players during spring practice against equally good talent on the other side of the ball, so they're getting a chance to sit. You don't want to really see them in the game that they win 63-14 and they're just running free and wide open. That's the easy part. You want to see what they are going to be like against top quality defensive talent.
James, for a player like Denzel Mims or just wide receivers in general, I know the game is constantly changing, but the basics stay the same. What would be your best advice to a first-year wide receiver, especially somebody like a Mims or a Lamb or any of these guys who are picked relatively highly and will have expectations pretty early on? What would you feel like they need to know and should know going into their rookie years?
I remember when I was coaching, I wanted the guys to practice at their highest level so that they would instill the confidence of the quarterback, of the offensive coordinator, of the quarterback coach, and my confidence in them that what they were doing Monday through Thursday, they would be able to do on Sundays.
The wide receiver position, speed is great, and you had it. You had size, hands, and everything. That's a position, though, that it seems like there's a small, like Jerry Rice is different, James Lofton is different, Steve Largent's different, guys that played a long time. You played, 16 years. You caught touchdowns in 3 separate decades. That's an amazing. Is that something you're real proud of because of how consistent you were and also how durable you were?
Well, the 16 years that I played, I just couldn't find any other work, so I just kept playing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what I enjoyed the most is I enjoyed the off-season training. I had been a track and field athlete when I was in college, so when you're running track, you're really running on your own. And you're running, and all you're doing is getting tired, and you're getting better. And so all the running that I had to do and all the weightlifting that I had to do during the off season, those are things that I enjoyed doing. And I think that's why I was able to play a long time. And when you talk to guys that do have long careers, they enjoy the training, the getting ready for the competition that they're going to face during the course of the regular season.
This offseason in the NFL has been kind of a strange one for turnover in that you see a changing of their guard at quarterback a lot of places. Tom Brady's left New England, where he's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's playing in Tampa now. Phillip Rivers to the Colts, and then you have coaching changes. Do you think we'll see kind of now that Patrick Mahomes is the face of the NFL, or we're starting to see a shift in the power in the league right now?
I know for CBS, we are very glad to have Patrick Mahomes on our broadcast each and every week, because I think that he is the type of talent that you want to see, that you have a hard time taking your eyes off of when he's on television. Fox is going to get a boost for Tom Brady, and depending upon how well Tampa does the first quarter of the season, do they jump right out the gates and go 4-0, and are they in the lead the whole time for the Super Bowl? Does Aaron Rodgers have another great season in him? Can the San Francisco 49ers repeat? So you're going to have storylines once we get into the season. But the biggest question marks are going to be, are we going to be playing in stadiums that are empty? Are we going to be playing in stadiums that are a third capacity? What's going to be the plan to get fans into the seats? Because people will watch on television. I know I'm sitting around and I'm watching golf from 2 or 3 years ago, and after about a half an hour, I get on the internet and I go, well, who won?
Yeah.
I want to see who won. Well, at least with an NFL game, you won't be able to do that once those games are live, even if they are not attended by fans.
James, you brought the crowd up. If you don't mind, one more question. Hall of Fame receiver James Lofton with us on SicEm365 Radio. What would it be like to play if they played the games and there were no fans? How much does that affect the performance, if at all?
Well, if you watch today's player and the way that they engage the fans while they're playing, you get up and you point toward a first down, or you get a sack and you gesture toward the people in the stands, and you're the quarterback and you get up to the line of scrimmage and You're trying to fight through the crowd noise to get your audibles called. So I think it changes a lot. Players that can really focus well, players that have coaches that, you won't have to pump in crowd noise. How will you pump in silence during the course of the week? So I think those things will be very interesting. And it'll be even more interesting to see even what type of preseason that we have.
James, I had this come to me while you were kind of talking about some of the storylines. What were your thoughts on the Packers' selection of a quarterback in the first round? And if you're on that team right now, like at a wide receiver position, for example, what kind of a message, if any, is that sending to maybe some of the guys around the locker room?
Well, I think what it's sending to the guys that were already there is, we want you to pick up the slack a little bit. They did go out and acquire Devin Funchess, who had been with the Carolina Panthers, who has been a starter in the league. So you do now have a starter to place on the opposite side of Devontae Adams. I do the preseason games for the Packers, so I get to watch them play a lot. And I thought that they would go wide receiver. The pick of Jordan Love, sometimes you have to step out in advance when you see a guy that you like and you can be committed to for the next couple of years. When Kansas City Chiefs had Alex Smith and he was playing real well, and they drafted Patrick Mahomes, moving up in the draft to get him. There were some people going, well, I don't know. At Texas Tech, he just scrambled around and threw the ball like crazy. Well, he's doing the same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. So you hope that you're right. I don't know if the Packers can be as right as they were when they drafted Aaron Rodgers years ago, but this is a shot at it.
James, thank you. In fact, there's video of Alex Smith throwing footballs, taking snaps.
Crazy.
I mean, there's a long way to go.
I saw that.
Wow.
I saw that. That did look promising. He had a pretty big brace on the right leg, but still moving around much more than what anybody would have ever thought.
Thank you so much, James, for being a part of the show today. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
James Lofton, Pro Football Hall of Famer, Stanford. Think about who he said. He had Bill Walsh, Jack Christensen, Marv Levy, Bart Starr. Man.
Yeah, that Alex Smith video is pretty crazy. He does have a very, very heavy brace on his leg, which is to be expected, but he's moving around on it. And he's moving around with a little bit of a hitch in his giddy-up, but not much compared to what you would be expecting for a guy who's gone through what he's gone through. And I know that you've seen, and it looks like we just got a little heads up that could be some Baylor recruiting news to get to here in just a few minutes. But you actually watched the show, right?
Well,
or parts of it?
I can get pretty queasy pretty early.
Okay, did you, Paul?
But
did you watch
did.
any of it?
No,
Okay.
I didn't because of that.
You need
Okay.
there
I'll watch
is
it
a
eventually,
point.
but
I mentioned this on the show that day after. There's a chance that if you're not careful, it almost looks like his leg is like one of those fake, like machine men. And when they
Like a
have
cyborg?
yes, and when the skin comes or whenever the covering comes off, it's that's how in depth it is. Absolutely, you got to be ready for it. And for someone like me, I kind of turned away, didn't watch much of it, and then I kind of watched on a side. But there's some disgusting, gross, tesque pictures, but I couldn't help it. Not because it's a car wreck. I had to see how did he get past that. And he looks like he's got a long way to go, but they were thinking about taking his leg off.
Yeah, he almost got his leg amputated, which is, something that can happen from time to time when you're dealing with infections like he was dealing with. Those are so dangerous. I mean, that's losing a limb potentially. That's dying potentially if the infection gets bad enough and spreads enough. So, yeah, that's always a complication with surgery like that, and really scary stuff. And it is a queasy watch for those who have a stomach that can't really handle too much. Then it's probably not a watch for you, but you will be inspired by Alex Smith, that is for sure, because I don't know how he's doing it. I would have quit a long time ago and just said, all right, my football days are over, but he's bound and determined, and you would say there's no chance, but you actually see the video today and you go, he's kind of moving around okay, despite the big brace. Like, you can see why there's maybe some optimism, and what a comeback story that would be. That would be no doubt our comeback of the year. I mean, that wouldn't even be close.
One thing, and then we come back with Robert Blackmon, former Baylor All-American defensive back, played with the Seattle Seahawks for quite some time, there is the coaching staff is throwing up all the bells and whistles as if there's a commitment coming.
There is.
And when there is, we will have it for you, and it's, of course, coming up around the corner. This is SicEm365 Radio.
Has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, with Crown Royal Peach in stock right now and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, hot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student-athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
We are facing some unique challenges at this time. We want to do our part to support not only our community, but our medical providers who are really overtasked right now. Governor Greg Abbott has required dental offices to postpone all elective dental procedures, but still be available for dental emergencies. At this time, dental emergencies are those that are defined as something that would make somebody consider going to the emergency room for treatment. We're offering to see you at our office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to noon, and we will waive all fees. We're doing this to support the community and support the medical system. This will allow the overtasked medical community to focus on the truly needy at this time. In the midst of what seems to be so much gloomy news, we want to send a positive signal of our faith in our community and in each other. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're 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 all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Thank you and God bless.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Hi, this is Josh Hayes, head football coach at Parkview Christian Academy, and you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Taking a shot to the end zone. Climbing the ladder, Bo Corrales for the touchdown.
Here we go, this 3 o'clock hour, thanks to Hall of Fame wide receiver James Lofton for being a part of our show. We'll have Max Olson, the Athletic, coming up next, but we're now joined by AD head football coach at Van Vleck, Robert Blackmon, former Baylor All-American defensive back, part of the NFL with the Seattle Seahawks. He joins Paul, Craig, and David Smoke on SicEm365 Radio. So how is this affecting? What are you able to do? How frustrating or patient are you having to be, knowing also the safety of your student athletes are important as well?
Well, during this time, we have to be very patient. A lot of things we're doing is via, Zoom or remind app, or emailing really. So no contact. So that's kind of difficult because trust me, 9 out of 10 kids are not getting on that Zoom meeting. So that's the frustrating part. But you have to understand safety comes first.
So, you only get a limited amount of time with them anyway to do exactly what you want to do, and then you have your summer weight program. Is it stressful knowing that kids are left to their own devices and you may have to kind of ratchet things up when they do actually get back?
Well, to be honest, not really stressful because, the kids who want to be, they're out doing things to maintain where they are. I mean, of course, they can't go to the gym or come to the school, so they're really not getting good weight workout, but some of them are able to do a lot of things for us, the things we send them for is body work and conditioning. I mean, conditioning is the main part. I mean, we can get the strength back, but they come out way out of shape, and that takes time.
How much, I guess, talk or nervousness, concern is there from your point of view as coaches when you don't have that time with them where they're out running around or doing whatever and you're hoping that they're staying out of trouble and doing those types of things? But is there, as a coach, I guess always that mentality year-round, but especially right now because there is so much free time?
Most definitely. And to be honest, that's kind of how I put it in perspective, man. Here in the last, I guess, 2 weeks, man, 2 weeks to a month, we had 3 individuals in our county get killed. Just there wasn't any kids, but just 3 people lost their lives to gun violence in the last month. So that scares you there because you never know what our kids are doing. They're not at home, and you don't have a chance to get your eyes on them during the school time or contact. So that's worrisome right there. But you hope they're doing the right thing and staying out of trouble. Of course, when you call them or contact their parents, they are. But you just have to hope and pray that they're doing the right thing.
No question about it. You played at Baylor. Obviously drafted 1990 second round, 34th pick early in the second round. And you were, as a defensive back at Baylor, one of the best that's ever played there. What were your thoughts and how often did you get to watch what they did last year with that defense that was so stingy under Matt Rule?
To be totally honest, man, I didn't watch too much of it, to be totally honest. I really don't watch college ball. I like the high school. I really don't watch football either, for that matter. I like high school ball, man, to be totally honest.
Obviously, that's what you do. So do you watch a lot of other games when you get a chance, other teams and things like that?
Yes. Some other teams who we try to emulate offensively and defensively, I try to find them and watch those guys, especially the bigger schools, the 6A schools. I try to get out to see those guys. If we're doing similar things schematic-wise.
Robert, Baylor's got a commitment that's going to be coming in here in just a few minutes that we're going to let everybody know about when he makes his announcement. For you, I know recruiting has changed immensely from the time that you were being recruited, but what memories do you have of that process and kind of how it started off? Do you remember getting your first offer and what that feeling was like? And can you just kind of go into what that experience was like for you?
I remember, man, just receiving a ton and tons of letters. You know what I mean? I don't think it was so much as we're going to offer to you when did your visit. I mean, you took it down. I think it was allowed to make, I think back then it was 3 visits. I don't know if it was 3 or 5. I think it was 3. So you had to make your top 3 choices, go out and visit, and those schools the one to offer you. So now it's different, man. Matter of fact, I was talking to a few schools today about a kid that I have coming out next year, man. They already offered him. They haven't even seen him in person. So that's just how things have changed, man. And they see it on film and they like what they want, they go at it. Whereas we changed film back in the day, but it wasn't nearly as crazy or as, especially with social media. I think social media is king now, man. So they really have ways of getting themselves out there, whereas you have to trust your head coach. I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't know if it was Texas Football Magazine back then, but Max Emfinger used to do a magazine.
Yep.
And he kind of got the top guys out and got their name out there. So that's kind of what we went on back in the 80s.
Back when I first started doing talk radio in 1990, Max was a weekly guest, especially around January, February, and no one else I've ever had as a guest were there more people who wanted to ask him questions about recruits and recruiting and teams and college programs. All right, so Robert, you ran 4 picks, 4 interceptions, back for touchdowns. You had a knack to not only pick off a pass, get an interception, but to be able to do something with it. How much of a thrill was that?
Oh, it was great, man. You know, anytime you intercept an offensive pass, man, it's demoralizing. It's like 10 completions versus the defense. So that's really what was exciting for me, man. And to take it to the end zone, that's like putting gas on the fire.
Robert Blackmon, 1986 to 1989 with the Baylor Bears. You also, here's one of the things that a lot of guys, like Deion would never have had these stats with him. And Deion was special, we know that. But you also were not afraid to come up and force the run, were you? Where did that mentality come from?
Well, this really came from my high school coach, Coach Lee Mitchell, man. He was a very aggressive coach. He was our defensive back coach when I was in high school, and he just made us have that mentality, man. You want to treat those guys who carry the ball like a wall, man. You want to run through them. You don't want to run to them. You want to run through them. And that just kind of carried over, man, from my 8th grade year throughout playing ball.
The Seattle Seahawks, you played for them for a nice long chunk, and then you went to Baltimore or Indianapolis. Which was it? It was Indianapolis.
Yeah, it was Indy. Yeah,
Indy at the time, and that you weren't there that long. Your career ended. How much of a shock was that for you? Because you had played football for so long, and all of a sudden it's over.
It was different, man. I'll tell you what, it took a while to adjust because you used to, the locker room, you used to getting working out, getting your body ready to go to work. And just, the camaraderie of the locker room, the fellowship, and man, it was a lot. But I will say this, for the beating that your body takes, man, when you rested that first year, man, it felt completely different, like night and day. So when I retired, man, I knew it was time, man. I was 32, and it was time.
If you took Robert Blackmon, Thomas Everett, Gary Green, and Van McElroy, and you put them as secondary, is that about as good as it gets right there?
No doubt. No doubt.
Man,
that's pretty good.
And Thomas Everett trains students or trains athletes.
Right.
Gary's a football coach still down in San Antonio, right?
Yes.
And then and Van McElroy's an agent, an NFL agent, as far as.
As far as last I heard, they still were doing that.
Yeah.
Robert, do you think you could hang with these receivers these days?
No way.
No way. Go cover CeeDee Lamb.
No way.
Man, they big and strong. We just had James Lofton on, we just had James Lofton, big, tall, strong, fast.
Yeah, he had a long slide too. Yeah, he was fast. I remember James with the Raiders and Green Bay.
Hey, Robert, I wanted to ask you this. As somebody who got into coaching after their playing career was over, I typically ask those types of people this question. What got you into coaching? What made you have that desire? Was there somebody in your life that kind of sparked that interest in you? How did you go from playing to coaching?
To be honest, that was not my intention. When I got through playing, man, I went back to school and got my degree in criminal justice. I wanted to be a game warden.
Oh, cool.
So then I was living in Sugar Land, and we came home. My wife's mom had passed away, so we came back to Van Vleck visiting. And I ran into a guy who I played with in high school. He's a couple years older than I, but he was our junior high principal. And he kind of asked me about if I thought about getting into it. Then, lo and behold, went back home for a little while. My wife decided she wanted to move back to Van Vleck to be closer to her dad because he was up in age. And I just took him up on it. And so I went and got my certification and started coaching back in 2003.
Was it a difficult transition because you used to play the game so easily than to have and have to, of course, it's fun to watch a young student athlete get better and get stronger and get more and get, understand the game. Was that kind of a hard transition?
When you say hard, I think the biggest, I don't know what's the right word to use. The thing what I had to step back from is just to realize that these kids who I was coaching were not me. They didn't have the same desire or hunger or want to kind of run through that guy or to get to play at the next level. They were just out there having fun to be around their friends. So that was kind of an adjustment for me because I couldn't understand that. I mean, being you playing offense, defense, or whatever, you on the field, man, you want to be the best. Now, some of them, not all of them are like that, but that was kind of the adjustment period I got when I came back from playing and just watching these kids come on. You had a few that wanted to go all out, but most of them just out there to say they was on the team, and that was kind of an adjustment period for me because it was frustrating. I didn't understand that. So,
well,
it's a little different.
Yeah, you played the game at a certain level, no question about it. Thanks for your time with both the NFL, with the Seattle and Colts. Yeah, you too, Robert. It's Robert Blackmon, former Baylor All-American defensive back. Gary Green, Thomas Everett, Robert Blackmon, Van McElroy. I don't know, and that's been a long time. I don't know. I mean, even the ones we did, the all-decade players, they can't. Those were elite college football and pro players.
I know more about Thomas Everett, obviously, because of the hardware and the pro career. That was a bit too young for me to really have too much of a knowledge of those guys because I was an 80s baby, so it was a little bit too young for me. But I do know that I've heard an awful lot about that time period and read a lot about that time period and how good some of the talent was. Thomas Everett obviously being a Thorpe Award winner, but yeah, cool to catch up with him. And yet, another coach. There's a lot of former Baylor Bears out there in those high school coaching ranks. I think we've learned over the course of this show over the last 5 weeks and just kind of learn from time to time in general as well. But yeah, that was a pretty salty group, and if they ever have one that can compare to that means something's going pretty right. And you would think that if somebody can put together a secondary that sort of resembles that, then Dave Aranda would be a pretty good choice to put together a secondary like that.
You think so? Coming up next, Max Olson, TheAthletic.com. We'll also hear from Butch Johnson, former Cowboys wide receiver, made that spectacular catch in the Super Bowl against the Broncos, which today, I don't know if it'd be a catch or not, but it was one of the best ones ever. And at 4:35 or so, we'll have Mickey Spagnola. This is SicEm365 Radio.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long-distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like these, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illness and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please, remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe. Together, we'll get through this.
Hi, this is Brad Talbert, head football coach at Holland High School, and you're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Greg Smoke.
Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physician of Baylor Athletics. Our doctors specialize in the diagnosis and treatment of any and all sports-related injuries, celebrating over a decade of service in Central Texas. Our doctors are equipped to handle a wide range of issues, whether it's your foot or ankle, orthopedic spine care, your hand or wrist, knee and shoulder pain, or if you're in need of our arthritis or total joint clinic. Trust the doctors that Baylor trusts. Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. Our goal is to get you back in the game.
This is Waco, and this is Boozer's Jewelers. When locals want luxurious jewelry and at a competitive price, they come here. This is Brad Boozer. He's the owner of Boozer's Jewelers. Boozer's is the premier wedding ring store. They specialize in loose diamonds and wedding rings. At Boozer's, they have 7 jewelry counters dedicated to wedding rings and diamonds only. They also specialize in heirloom jewelry, custom jewelry, watches, and much, much more. So what are you waiting for? Stop on in today and discover why the locals trust Boozer's for their jewelry.
Waco, Texas, a place with its own unique history and a future bright with promise. Full of remarkable growth and opportunity, and what makes it all work is its people, families, raising children, growing businesses. Wacoans are hardworking with a passion for what's next, and we're proud to be from here, helping Waco to grow and prosper. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Duggan rolls, looking Rager's way, throws, and picked off. Braylon Arnold stepped right in front and made the pick for Baylor.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. When life is stressful, there's an ideal solution. Ideal MRI. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go, this 4 o'clock hour. Next segment, we have 3 guests this segment. We'll start with Max Olson from The Athletic.com, and then we'll have former Cowboys receiver Butch Johnson, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, and Max Olson now joins us. Max, is interesting. We had Mac Rhodes on yesterday, and in the discussion with him, he said to us he thought the Big 12 media days was going to be, he said it's not, I think he pretty much told us it was going to be virtual. And I think like 30 minutes later, of course, the tweet came out, and that's not a surprise. That will be unique, won't it?
Yes, it will. Not a surprise because it looks like pretty much every Group of 5 conference made that choice already, and so I think the Power 5 conferences are heading in that direction. Obviously, that's going to be a bummer for a lot of folks that love to go to SEC Media Days and all that deal, but yeah, it's going to be unique. I was talking to someone today. The upside is that, I suppose because you take the travel out of it, we can go to any media days we want, right? We can pop into them, but that also means that you've got hundreds of people on one Zoom call, which has the potential to be disastrous. So hopefully those are well moderated. And I also don't know how do you kind of conveniently bring players into that? You know what I mean?
Max, do you think though they may decide that, hey, it's great that we don't have to rent these venues and we can just sit everybody in their home campuses and do this via Zoom or whatever, that we may not ever have media days again like they were?
I certainly fear that. Yeah, I certainly fear that no matter the logistical challenges of doing this all teleconference style or video conference style, I should say, you certainly worry that you hope it doesn't go so well that they decide they don't need to do media days anymore. I don't. Obviously for you guys, it's so helpful to be able to do that, live on site and talk to all sorts of different people and get one-on-one interviews and stuff like that. And I think a lot of that stuff kind of goes out the door with this style. So I'm sure for you guys that'd be a bummer too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of content to be had during those media days. Hey Max, I know that, like anything that we ask you, it's kind of like when we were talking to Mac Rhodes yesterday, that there's so many non-answers to be had right now, but I did see where the governor of Oregon came out today, and she said for folks to anticipate no large gatherings through September. And we're on May the 7th right now, and just the college football fans out there are like, wait a second, they're hosting Ohio State, they're hosting North Dakota State. What happens to those games? Just wondered if you had seen that out of the state of Oregon, and what kind of chatter has there been amongst you and your colleagues or perhaps people in the industry that you've talked to about a scenario like that where the state of Oregon would have to, I guess, not play or somehow move a game like Oregon and Ohio State?
Yeah, well, this is where it's going to get really tricky over the next couple months. Is that you hope that the Power 5 leagues and you hope the 1:30 period in college football can work together on figuring out how this is going to work, because I think if you leave it up to each and every state to make those judgments, then there's going to be a lot of different outcomes. Right? Every state is going to assess this and their own issues differently, and have different policymakers that come to different decisions on that stuff. So as this drags on in the next few weeks, I think you're going to see more and more of that, of states projecting out and trying to say, well, here's what we're going to extend bans until like you said, September or longer or whatever. So, I mean, I think there's going to be more and more of that because it's not like these states are all trying to work together to arrive at the same solutions here. So it's going to get messy. And I think that's why you've seen this week there have been more stories and more sort of conversation and speculation about, well, what if we're living in a world where, for example, most of the Big 12 schools say they can play football, but a few of them can't. I mean, what does that then look like do you continue on with the season? Do you shorten it? What does that look like? I think there's going to be more of those conversations because I think we're going to have some of these difficult predicaments here where not everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, like, let's say somebody starts late and they just can't play. And that means others, of course, who are supposed to play them can't play because of the state they're in or whatever. Could we end up, Max, where everyone has been on this cookie cutter, you play 12 games. And then, of course, then there's a conference championship game, and then there's could there be, can you see at the end of the year, like in November the 23rd, you have one team that's 5-0 and somebody else that might be 10-2?
Yeah. I mean, I that's where I think this stuff right now, the conversation is more conference to conference, and it's okay. What if we're in a world where like the SEC and the Big 12 are playing this year, but the Pac-12 says we're not going to play this year, and then obviously if that's the case, then what's the point in having a postseason, right? So that's where you start to get into this really tricky territory of, okay, what do we, what's okay and what's not okay, and obviously this is going to be, has the potential to be a really strange looking season. And yeah, I think you make a good point. We're used to this being pretty standardized across the board of a 12-game season and, winning teams going to a bowl game and all that. And we haven't even talked about what this even looks like for bowl games and playoff and all that stuff because it's just also up in the air. But, there's a possibility that, that there could be some leagues like the SEC who say, screw it, we're going ahead with this. And some leagues that just flat out don't.
Well, I think, Max, this is the Group of 5 shot, right? I mean, if you have a Power 5 league that's not going to play, you're the Group of 5, you just say, look, damn the torpedoes. Let's do it. We're here. We're available. Let's schedule some games.
Yeah, I know. And, it's a question then of, do we have all these cancellations? Do we have people trying to reschedule stuff with each other and all that? It's really anybody's guess. And I think that's why a lot of people prefer to focus on, what's the uniform solution to this, because if you leave it up to school, conference to conference, and state to state, it gets really weird and messy, really quickly.
On this day, I guess it was 7 years ago, after a 7-year wait to get in, Tommy Frazier was voted into the 2013 College Football Hall of Fame class, which I think a lot of people could agree is way too long of a wait for somebody of Tommy Frazier's caliber, Max. But knowing you're very well versed with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, when I say Tommy Frazier, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
I mean, it's interesting that like we're kind of in an era right now where like the last few guys that have won the Heisman, Burrow and Kyler and Baker, like have had some of the best seasons by a quarterback in college football history. I think Joe pretty much just did this last year, but to me, it's like historically, like if you're going to talk about the best quarterbacks in college football history, you better put Tommy Frazier in that discussion, that top 3, that top 5, whatever, no matter what the modern era looks like right now in terms of points and yardage and all that kind of stuff. Tommy Frazier, he was one of the all-time greats, and I know Smokey agrees with me on that one.
Yeah, I do, and because he's, I think Tommy Frazier and Vince Young, it would be hard to sit there and try to say, okay, take one of those out. I know Paul would put Charlie Ward in.
No, I'll just say I kind of agree with you on Tommy and Vince affected a game individually more than almost any quarterback you can think of.
The way they could will a team, and I know someone's going to bring up Touchdown Jesus as well, but the way that Frazier and Vince Young can take over a game but will their team, it's just, Nebraska's had Frost and then Crouch, and then they thought they had their second coming of a great player, and it's just been a disaster. But, I heard that when he was a freshman or so, and they were scrimmaging what was then the starters, and he was a freshman, and everyone knew he was special, and they were getting drilled first-team defense back when actually Max black shirts meant something. But they were getting beat up, and he got mad at after practice. He got really angry and started just chewing on the freshmen or the red shirts or the walk-ons. And from that point on, it wasn't his team yet, but it pretty much sent a message that he was not one of those. Golly, that's been a long time.
Yeah, he had to wait 7 years to get in. Yeah, but yeah,
it's crazy, and it's just like with Vince. Honestly, we're with Tommy, like we remember the peak at the end of his career there, but he went through some tough times with the medical stuff, with competing with Brooke Behringer and all that. But at his peak and at Nebraska's peak, I mean, that guy's as good as anybody. There's no doubt.
What is this story by Peter Ball about Speedy Flowers? I only saw the headline. I said, I've got to read that, and then I got something maybe trying to set up a guest. Can you share that with everyone who didn't see this?
Of course, yeah. So anybody who's been on Twitter the last few weeks has noticed there's been this weird thing where you have all sorts of like high school kids posting about their recruitments on Twitter where they're not actually real athletes. They're just guys that are playing the NCAA football video game in this career mode, and they're posting about the offers they get and all that. And so Peter talked to one of the guys who started this weird trend on Twitter. And this is a kid who, just a student at Michigan State, who started playing the NCAA video game and started acting. He created this fake character on Twitter and all that. And he tweeted that he got an offer from Northern Illinois, and the real head coach of Northern Illinois, like called him out on Twitter and told him that was BS and all this stuff, and because he didn't understand it was just a fake video game thing. So it's about this guy and this weird trend of people putting their video game characters on Twitter and saying they've got offers that somehow all these coaches have fallen for it.
Well, we've seen some programs. Wasn't it Texas that had a player, Paul? Wasn't it UT like a few years back that had a guy that was like
he committed to them and they never even
what was it like 30 years old? Not because he had been in the military or whatever. Because they
had that guy that was 30 years old that like lied about who he was and gave a fake name. But there've been a couple teams lately, Max, that have had players commit to them and have these big signing day ceremonies, and then like we've never met the kid, we don't know who he is.
I know you would think that's hard to do these days with Twitter and all that stuff, and how all the offers and all that stuff are out in public. But I remember, especially when I was covering recruiting in the state of Texas more closely, probably starting in 2012, there would always be a kid or two every year who all the recruiting reporters would talk about with each other. It's like, this kid's making this stuff up, right? And they were. It still happens every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lie that it's not something you can will into existence. It's not like one of those stories that, like from old Hollywood, where like I was in an elevator with E.W. Murtaugh and he gave me a role because I was good looking. Like that's not how it works in football.
No. Nope. Saban just sees a guy walk up to practice like, oh, yeah, I'm on the team. Oh, really? Okay. Well, all right.
Max,
then.
We'll see you like in that small little square sometime in July in the Big 12 virtual media days. We'll see you that along with Dennis Dodd, along with Stuart Mandel, along with Bruce Feldman, and 19 other writers and 12 television stations. You'll be a speck in that Zoom meeting.
I'll be battling you to get a word in, but hey, upside for this guys is we don't have to go buy or wear jackets and ties anytime soon.
No, you're right. No, you're right. Exactly right. Max, have a great day. Appreciate it, buddy. Max Olson, theathletic.com, with us on SicEm365 Radio most every Thursday in the 4 o'clock hour. Coming up next, he was a personality and a heck of a football player, sometimes overshadowed by Drew Pearson or Tony Hill or others. Former Cowboys wide receiver Butch Johnson, next on SicEm365.
And we will have news on who the commitment is coming up next as well.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hi, this is Luke Howard, head football coach at Gatesville High School. You're listening to SicEm365 Radio with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We are open to support our community through this crisis. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Dr. Kent Petty wants you to be the highest performance man you want to be. Are you sluggish, lack energy? Do you suffer from low sex drive? Petty Clinic Low T offers discounted comprehensive lab work to check on your various levels that can make a difference. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy and stamina and improved sex drive, but also the healthiest and high performance man. Screening for cardiac heart disease risk, EKG, cholesterol panel, blood pressure monitoring, testosterone or growth hormone deficiency, male infertility, hepatitis C, and prostate cancer screening. Petty Clinic Low T offers replacement therapy for testosterone or growth hormones, weight management therapy, and nutritional advice. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy, stamina, and improved sex drive, but the healthiest and highest performance man. PettyClinicLowT.com, PettyClinicLowT.com on Old Hewitt Road, just off Highway 84 in Woodway. PettyClinicLowT.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Sausage wrap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
SicEm365 Radio, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke. I'm David Smoke, Dylan Chapman running the mothership as well. As we continue with this 4 o'clock hour, Butch Johnson, former Cowboys NFL wide receiver, joins us now on SicEm365 Radio. Butch, thanks for your time. We have talked to a lot of players that have been a part of the legacy of the Cowboys, and obviously the wide receiving core, the team that you were on, the kind of personalities you had. You hear about receiving cores now that are deep. The Cowboys have one, it appears. They've added another one, CeeDee Lamb. What was it like, that core of receivers you had in especially the late 70s?
Well, interesting enough, there's been a couple of things that have come out because the Cowboys are 60 years old, believe it or not, and they're celebrating their birthday this year. And one of the things that came out was who wore the numbers who wore the numbers the best over that 60-year period of time. And in those days, as receivers, everyone had 80, number 80 to 89. And from 80 to 89, there was Tony Hill, who wore the best. He wore number 80. It was number 83 was Golden Richards. He wore the best. Number 84 was not in. Number 85 was not in. Number 86 was me. Number 87 was Jay Saudi, and number 89 was Billy Joe Dupree. So we had 6 of the guys that wore 80 to 89 wore that jersey during that time period, and that was our crew. That's how good that crew was.
Did you guys feel like you were part of something innovative and different with not only Coach Landry, but what Gil Brandt and the front office was doing there?
Yeah, it was a completely different thing. Now, we would go to different stadiums, and it was horrible. St. Louis Cardinals, it was like playing on concrete. If you went into their stadium, they also had baseball there. So this was so early on in the transition of the NFL The Cowboys had everything. It had the best stadium. They had the best floor seats. It had the best cheerleaders. It had the best organization. It had the best players overall. And Pittsburgh, of course, will question that one. But at the same time, it was a class operation. And it was a business operation. And what people don't really understand, and in this area, there's a lot of military. But Tom was a military guy. He had flown 35 missions in World War II, bomber missions, and came back into the NFL in the 1950s. And our crew, all the administration people and all the people that work with equipment and all the people that work in the front office were military people. So it was a military-based organization on the player side. On the administration side, that was more the entertainment side with Gil Brandt and Tex Schramm, and their crew was strictly entertainment and television.
Butch Johnson made one of the best catches in Super Bowl history. We've seen what David Tyree did in that miraculous Giants win against the Patriots, or Santonio Holmes, or others as well. When you look back at that and you take us through that moment, Staubach threw obviously a rope. You make the catch against Denver in a Super Bowl victory. What was it like? What play was that? And just your thoughts.
Well, actually, there's a little bigger background on that than it seems to be. I started the game, and it was Super Bowl 12 is what you're talking about. And in the first quarter, I had to play in the double tight end set. And I had to block Tom Jackson, who probably outweighed me about 50 pounds. But what happened is I broke my thumb. And during that first quarter, but we had no other tight end except for Billy Joe Dupree. And that's how our offense was set up. So we went in, they taped my hand together. They gave me a shot in the hand, and they sent me back out on the field. In this day and age, that never would have happened. My thumb was broken too. And you played with it. So for the next 3 quarters until that play came up, I was playing with a broken right hand. So Tom looks at me and I come in and it's a 15 round, is what we called it, where the tight end is going to come over about 12 yards and the wing is going to come over about 18 yards, and I'm going to go straight up the sideline to pull everybody out. So when I step into the huddle, I call the play. Roger's kneeling down, and he says, "Who's in here?" I said, "Well, Butch." And he says, "Go to the post." And I'm thinking, I'm a second-year guy. You're telling me the play is for me to go straight down the sideline, which is you don't go across what Tom said, right?
Right.
He was telling me go to the post. So that play was never practiced. The reason why we didn't practice is because they were playing a 3 deep zone. That means there's going to be a safety in the middle. But what Roger had saw that Bernard Jackson was creeping up to come in and make that play. He had seen those plays, the same play, when Dallas played Pittsburgh the year before. So they were broken up and there was 2 interceptions. So he was laying for the play. So I take off and I'm thinking, how am I going to catch this ball with a broken thumb? Right? Number one. Number two, how do you kind of phase guys out and kind of disappear like you're just running people out and the play's going to come underneath? So as I split them, I had just one shot. Roger would go the ball, and he told me later, and told me over the years, he said, "Man, I thought I'd overthrown you." But what I was doing was I was baiting them. I wasn't going all out so that I could bait them in and then make a burst for the ball. And that was the only chance I had. So I burst for the ball, and what I did was I just grabbed it the best I could. So I actually caught it with my left hand and wrapped my right hand around it, but I couldn't close my thumb. But in the NFL in those days, if you have possession, and that was about 6 yards outside of the end zone, so I decided, okay, I'm going to go with the flow and catch the ball, bring it in, and just dive over into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you had possession at that time, and you dived over the end zone, the play was dead after that. So it was like a brick wall, like going through a wall. Once you have possession, once you go across that line, it's a touchdown. So I didn't catch it on the end zone. I caught it 7 yards outside of it, which is also different. So at the end of the day, it was a great play, but it wasn't something we practiced. I will also say this too, is that Roger is going across the field, And he's walking back to the sideline about 45 yards up the field from me. I'm in the end zone, and I'm going down the sideline, and Tom is making a big hi to me. and he says, Butch. And he gets to me and says, Butch. What do you call? I said, Coach. He told me to go to the post. He turned around, shook his head, man. Roger. We had just scored, but it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't his play. It wasn't the play. You see what I mean? So that's how tight it was. And that's how you had to perform as a professional, under those circumstances. It was just a different group of men.
You are also a touchdown dance pioneer. And then, they changed the rules and took it away for a while with choreographed celebrations. But now it's a free-for-all. Butch, what would you do now with the different celebrations that these guys are doing?
I really hadn't thought about any of that stuff. But the thing is like I was a wide receiver, but I was also a punt returner. I was also a kick returner, and I also played 5 positions on the field. So that was important to me, that my versatility of what I did, during that time period. So, but dancing on the field was the transition point, is what I felt, is that we could never make money if our faces were always going to be hidden behind the hinges. So I had to come up with something that would project entertainment. And I grew up in LA, and that's the entertainment capital of the world. So I'm thinking, okay, we can shift this. Now, it was in the transition where everything that mattered to players before me was stats. So if you have stats, then you're going to get attention. Well, I always knew that it was only the moment that gets you attention. And in those moments, if you do great things, people will remember that. If you don't, people will remember that too. And unfortunately, it goes both ways. You can drop the ball 5 yards into the end zone and people will remember that forever. But if you can make those great moments happen consistently, people will remember you.
You were a prolific punt returner. Like, that was something where you also cut your teeth and made a name for yourself. There were times you would run back, it seemed like 3 or 4 punts in a game. It was like 50-something punt returns in a year. You don't see that anymore. Was that a mentality that's just a little bit different, that some can either do that or they can't?
The thing about that was I had never run a punt back or a kickoff back until I got into the pros. And it was strictly by accident that happened. Dick Ferguson, who was he was a receiver out of San Diego State. We were both drafted in the 3rd round in the same year. And he was a punt returner in college also, and a kick returner. So he was up first in about the 5th preseason game in our rookie year. He is catching a punt and fractures his finger catching a punt. So I had to come in, and they lined me up and said, okay, go for it. Well, first time I touched it, I went back 25 yards. And after that, it was a no-brainer. 2 weeks earlier, I had never ran a kickoff until I got into the pros, and I ran back a kickoff 74 yards. So I didn't know I could do that stuff. And I was running scared, man, because in those days, there was pads all around all the way up your arms. There was pads all the way, so people could hit you in the head. They could spear you when you were on the ground. They could necktie you. They could do anything. It was truly damage and courage. And a guy in the military once told me that they were taught to defend, and we were taught to run into 11 different guys. And so it's a different mentality of what we were doing. I think when I look back on it, in my first 3 years, I had over 1,300 or 1,400 yards and punt returns. Well, I didn't know if that was good or not, because I never really paid attention to a lot of stat stuff. I just wasn't into all that. But I should have went one more year. And for the first 3 years, I was over 400 and some odd yards per season. Now, will you see that again? No. And kickoff returns, it was the same thing. You won't see that. You won't see that skill set again. But it was it was dangerous, man. I mean, it was the worst thing you can do, the most risky thing you could do. And, I got through it, and I got through it with good health and no knee damage, no broken bones or any of that stuff. But I felt if I had played maybe one more year, I would like to see the outcome of how that would work out.
I know you got to go, and we do too. But when you're talking about the years you played, the Drew Pearson, you got to go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I was going to ask Butch. There's been some talk about special teams, and the safety of players obviously is paramount. And the talk of head injuries is far more out there than it had been previously up until these last few years. And one of the tweaks that people out there have suggested from time to time is the elimination of things like kick returns. You just talked about how violent it was. As somebody who experienced that, would you be for the elimination of the kickoff return?
I don't see a kickoff return anymore anyway.
True.
True. So I mean, that's either you're lining it up just because to me you're just lining it up to show that you're doing it, but it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't make any sense. So to me, it's just a play, extra play that you never played. So a punt return, there are two different elements to them, which makes the skill set different. A kickoff return, you're splitting in between two guys. You can't worry about the other 9. Wherever that player is leading into, it's like a running back, and you're splitting two guys. A punt return is why it's more dangerous is because it's not an end over end kick. It is more of a spiral coming at you, and then you got 8 or 9 guys on your butt at different levels, and you don't know where that level is coming from. So you're dodging and dodging and dodging, and it becomes more dangerous. The safety that's brought into it has been good because people can't hit you below the waist.
Butch, if you don't mind, one more thing, and that's on Drew Pearson, a teammate of yours. You know how valuable he was, and obviously the fact that he was so close yet again when Cliff Harris gets in earlier this year for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know the emotions that Drew went through. Can you try to explain how much that affects other players who played with him when he's so close and then has to have that almost kick in the you-know-what?
Well, you know something? I look at it this way. And I said this to Cliff Harris when I congratulated him. I said, look, he said, Butch, well, there's an 60-year all-time team, 60-year all-time team. They got released by the Dallas Cowboys. And I believe Drew is on that team. I'm on that team. Cliff is on that team. So here we are on the team after 60 years of that organization that is the number 1 franchise in the world. Canton is fine. But I believe Canton is for guys who didn't play on great teams. They didn't play on great teams, and they had great statistics, but they didn't play on great teams. So I felt bad for Drew for that opportunity, but Hill Carmichael, who did make that play, is a forgotten show. He was a 6'8" wide receiver who played on bad teams, who led his teams for 12 years by himself. I just told you there were 6 other guys that, as our crew, was on that team. So for me, I don't know who goes to Canton, but not a lot of people.
Thank you, Butch. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. We appreciate your input, also the trip down memory lane and also reminiscing as well. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
That's
Bye.
Butch Johnson, former Cowboys wide receiver, played with the Broncos and Oilers as well, with us on SicEm365 Radio. Coming up next, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. Also, we're going to break down, Craig, a little bit more about the commitment.
We've got to announce the commitment.
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
Cooper Lands, defensive end out of Denton Guyer, is the newest commit for Baylor football for the class of 2021. So they're now up to 10 commits. Cooper Lands, defensive end, Denton Guyer.
You know anything about him?
Nope, don't know much at all just yet.
Just a big, tall, good-looking kid. Cooper Lance, he put it up on Twitter. Firstly, I would like to thank God, my family, my coaches who have helped me to this point in my life. I'd like to thank all of my teammates and peers who have always been there for me and pushed me to be the best. After much thought and prayer, I'd like to announce that I'm committing to Baylor University. And he also had on his tag at Coach DJ Meatball. Dave Aranda, Joey McGuire, among others. This is SicEm365 Radio.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
Waco, Texas, our city of remarkable growth and opportunity with an even brighter future ahead. What makes it all work is our people living, working, and growing together. And we're proud to be from here, helping and serving the community we call home. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas, taking great pride in being locally owned and operated. Come see us at any of our 5 convenient locations. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
Hi, this is Rosebud Lot head football coach Raphael Williams, and I'm a proud listener and a supporter of the all-new SicEm360 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
We are facing some unique challenges at this time. We want to do our part to support not only our community, but our medical providers who are really overtasked right now. Governor Greg Abbott has required dental offices to postpone all elective dental procedures, but still be available for dental emergencies. At this time, dental emergencies are those that are defined as something that would make somebody consider going to the emergency room for treatment. We're offering to see you at our office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to noon, and we will waive all fees. We're doing this to support the community and support the medical system. This will allow the overtasked medical community to focus on the truly needy at this time. In the midst of what seems to be so much gloomy news, we want to send a positive signal of our faith in our community and in each other. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're 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 all in this together. We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Thank you and God bless.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The SicEm365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
SicEm365 Radio on this Thursday afternoon, taking you up until 6 o'clock. Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina, David Smoke, Dylan Chapman here with us. Hope you've enjoyed most of your day, if not all of it, and also have a a pretty good evening lined up. The Willis Law Firm chat room is open on SicEm365.com in the premium section. The Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line is available. 254-339-1122, 254-339-1122. And yet another guest that joins us, Mickey Spagnola at DallasCowboys.com.
He's got to push back. He's indisposed at the moment, but he'll send us a text when he's ready.
All right. I saw this from John Kurtz. I'm not sure if you guys he said, so let me get this straight. KU coaches were aware that Spagnola was at the Oriade Hotel with a recruit after late night. They didn't monitor that meeting. KU acknowledges that thousands of dollars in the end went to Adidas to recruits. KU claims no responsibility. This is based on, I guess, documents. John Kurtz, by the way, is somebody that covers Kansas State.
Yeah, there's a lot of allegations right now, and I think that there's definitely some substance to them. I don't think that Kansas is just being bullied here and that there's allegations being made up out of nowhere. I mean, we've seen some documents. We've seen the alleged payments and things like that. And you know what? Man, every time I see a story like this, people initially when it comes out act like, oh, this is finally going to be it. It's finally going to be the time they nail Kansas or they nail Kentucky or they nail Duke or they nail North Carolina or they nail any of the Blue Bloods. And it never happens. And they never hurt all that badly from whatever they do receive. So to me, this is a story that has some merit, and there are some rules that were clearly broken. I think Bill Self is definitely a dirty coach. I don't think there's any question about that. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm just saying he's a dirty coach when it comes to recruiting, and there's a lot of those guys out there, but nothing will happen to him. And, he's already gone and shot a mini commercial wearing Adidas gear and a big gold chain just to give them the big FU, double birds right to the NCAA, and they've done nothing about it. So I expect they'll do nothing about whatever these allegations pertain to as well, and Kansas will just keep on winning Big 12 championships. I mean, that's just my opinion based off the history that we typically see in college basketball.
Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen. Why would anything happen? Well, what's changed about the NCAA?
Here's what I think the best thing that happened to Kansas and North Carolina is that Kansas and North Carolina are the ones involved. Of course, North Carolina was most recent, or Louisville. They'll hammer Louisville. It's a big school. That's still a good school, but they'll hammer Louisville. But it is so hypocritical. It does seem to be that way. I don't know enough. I have not read through a lot of this stuff. I'm not going to because of what you said, Craig, because I know the end result. The end result will be not much.
Yeah, so they did some stuff that's against the rules. They might lose a couple scholarships.
Well, they're not even denying. They're not saying like, "Hey, we did this," but they're not at all denying or disputing that Adidas and one of their employees / consultants provided at least $100,000 to the families of 3 different basketball prospects. They're not saying like, no, that's not true. No way, we didn't do that. They're just like not saying anything. They're not disputing it at all. So there's one example of many examples that are amongst the allegations. But yeah, a major one, $100,000 from an Adidas employee / consultant to the families of 3 student athletes who I would imagine probably all ended up at Kansas if y'all wanted to take that bet. So landed their recruits. And you know what? To me, going back to that Bill Self kind of, middle fingers shot to the NCAA months and months ago, I don't see where that's changed at all. They do not seem to care. And so I don't know what to expect, if anything, to actually, come out of this. And Kansas is also dealing with football allegations that aren't as severe as the basketball allegations, but they had several rules that they broke there. So, new AD of sorts in Jeff Long, and he's dealing with all that right now.
I wonder if this is akin to the Fiesta Bowl kickback controversy that they had, where the Fiesta Bowl got caught paying political kickbacks to people, and it was all like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do about the Fiesta Bowl? And the Fiesta Bowl, and they said, we're going to take away the college football, the national championship game. We'll take you out of the rotation. And the Fiesta Bowl said, we will absolutely, they played it politically perfect. Absolutely, will agree to that as soon as we do an audit of the sugar and orange bowls. And then they're like, whoa, hey, guys, hey, who among us hasn't paid a political kickback? Now, let's not just point fingers. And so we never saw that happen, because if Phoenix is a dirty political city, New Orleans and Miami have far worse reputations. I mean, the only way it could get worse as far as a political city reputation is if there was a bowl game in Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Chicago.
Again, yeah, so this might be the same thing in that, okay, Adidas has done all this stuff, and everybody knows Adidas did this stuff. The FBI did this investigation. But Adidas could go, okay, you telling me Nike and Under Armour aren't doing it too? Mm-hmm. And then Nike and Under Armour are the sugar and orange bowls going, hey, look.
Adidas is a great company.
Look,
we
guys,
like competition.
Let's all just let's live here in this space together.
You know what's interesting to me, too, is, there's far more, and I wonder why, from Kansas's point of view on the basketball side of things than on the football allegations. The football allegations are just kind of like not even talking about because they probably don't care. And the basketball ones are obviously very serious because it could affect their cash cow. And so it's just funny to me to see, football basically being ignored, but no, they're very much a part of the allegations against Kansas as well, but just nobody cares because they're not good, and that's what it all comes back to. Nobody cares if you're not good.
Yeah.
If you're good, people care. They want to see the whole school brought down. They want to see every coach fired. They want to see this and that, but if you're not good, then whatever, who cares? They're not good anyways. And that's where I think some of the hypocrisy comes in when people try to knee-jerk and get all serious about allegations being levied, and in reality, if they were to be truthful, it's more about who the school was versus, being really all that upset about the allegations. It's more about hey, let's see who we can punish and get excited about that. So
it's a buildup. Everything is like, oh my God, this is it. This is it.
When's an NCAA story come out that had a lot of buildup of all the stuff that's happened, the HBO documentary, all this basketball stuff? Really nothing has happened. I mean, if you think about it, there's been some people that have had to go in front of judges and handlers whose names we don't even remember, basically. We've seen the documentary and all that, but really what has happened? College basketball is no different than it was. I don't think the bagmen have disappeared.
Hell, the coach at LSU came back and started coaching.
Still coaching.
Yeah. And his tapes were ridiculously damning.
You think LSU cares, though? No. Why? Oh, because he wins. Look at that. We're all back to where we started here.
They don't care because he wins and because they don't think the NCAA will do anything.
They don't think they'll do anything. And you know what? The proof is they're right based on what we've seen with the NCAA.
Where do the good lawyers work? Did they work for the NCAA? No.
They work for
you
the
make
schools.
more money. It's the same thing. Some of the most successful defense lawyers are the ones who worked for the DA for a while, being prosecutors, and then they make decent money, but then they said, no, I'm going to go make some real money and I'm going to be a defense attorney, and that's where you cash in. It's the same thing with the NCAA. I'm sure they can pay you a decent wage and you can do what you think is some good work, but ultimately, I mean, the guy who's won all these cases on the eligibility used to work for the NCAA and went to go work for him. Then they had him on the committee. He stopped representing people. He didn't like the money flow, so he went back to doing what he's doing. Yep. So he gathered more intel and went back out and said, okay, here's what I know, and we're going to do this.
There's a lot of discussion, and of course, in recent years, and not just because of what occurred on the campus or around the campus of Baylor, but many other places. You have Michigan State and among others, Penn State. The new Title IX regulations will come back. And what does all this mean? The federal regulations announced by the U.S. Department of Education. We can keep it here?
Yeah, keep it here for about 5-6 more minutes.
So Darren Heitner, who we had on last week, remember he's the sports law attorney. New Title IX regulations. Now, we have all, I think, been in agreement that the colleges should not be in the Title IX business when it comes to investigating sexual assault or maybe crimes. Is that correct?
Correct. They don't have any business being investigators for stories like that.
Just like we wouldn't either.
Right.
So,
police have that. Police should do the police job, yeah.
New federal regulations announced by the U.S. Department of Education change how colleges must respond to sexual assault and harassment complaints, giving more rights to the accused students and lessening reporting mandates for employees, including coaches. Now, the story, which is up on ESPN.com, written by Paula Levine, that the new rules 2,033-page document.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that they're dropping this much, and I understand that the Title IX changes were in place, but I am in agreement with those that are saying, in the middle of what we're going through right now, particularly on college campuses, where they're just trying to figure out if students are going to be allowed to come back to school in a couple of months, much less their football programs and all the money they could potentially lose and all of the different things that, higher education is having to figure out right now. Let's just throw 2,300 pages of new Title IX rules in your lap and then tell you need to know this by August 14th when it goes into effect. How ridiculous is that? I don't care what political line you stand on. That's ridiculous. This is not good timing to try to introduce new Title IX legislation that's 2,000-plus pages and has to be in effect in 3 months.
Why don't they just say this? If an incident occurs with a student, on campus or not, turn it over to the police. And if you can't trust them, then that's up to you. Turn it over to the police. You don't need somebody on campus trying to make these decisions. They have enough to worry about.
Yeah, especially right now.
That takes a half a paragraph.
Well, okay, so one of the things that they are doing, like I said, giving more rights to the accused, and this was a thing that I always thought was strange. So the kids were not allowed to have lawyers in a lot of these instances, which, again, if I was a student and I was accused of something and I had to go before and I wasn't allowed to have legal representation, then I would have legal representation when I sued the school. And at the very least, you're going to cost the school money, even if you were guilty as hell. You're going to cost the school money defending this lawsuit saying that you were brought up in front of this tribunal without proper representation, which is unconstitutional, especially at a state-run institution among anything else. Secondarily, they wouldn't allow for cross-examination by lawyers, and which then what's the point of having if you're just going to cut up and say, okay, accuser and accused, tell your story, and we're just going to pick who we like more, then look, and a lot of time, I'm not trying to dismiss the accused, but that's not how we set the justice system up in this country, and it's not fair, even though there are people who have been wronged. You don't want to rely on that. The focus needs to be on educating and destigmatizing the reporting of it. If you are a victim, that's what you do, starting at a young age, telling people who are sexually assaulted that it's not your fault, that this is a bad thing that's happened to you, but it's okay to go report it to somebody right after it happens. In fact, you absolutely should.
Well, this has already turned into a political fight. I mean, the news stuff has come out today, and it took 2 hours for the Democrats to respond and say this could have chilling effects on students and prevent them from wanting to report, which is a real, genuine concern to have, is that you don't want to make it to where the rules are so that your daughter or your niece or your nephew or whoever, your son, is too scared to come forward. You definitely don't want that. But it was balanced all the way over in the other direction to where, you were the accused and you were just considered guilty. No matter what, you were guilty. You had no representative to help you out in front of this kangaroo court, because that's what it was. Mm-hmm. And you were just going to be guilty most 99.9999% of the time. And that was way too extreme to the other way. So now what they're going to do is you can have a lawyer if you want, if you're the accused, but you could also have a parent or a guardian. You're allowed a party to be a part of your representation. So you can choose your parent, I suppose, if you wanted to, but they will at least be allowed representatives, and there will be apparently through this, although again it's already being fought, some sort of cross-examination, maybe not cross-examination is the best term, but it's not just going to be the suspect or the accused sits there and just hears all the things that they allegedly did and gets no response to that. There's actually going to be responses, so that's a good thing.
Why can't it just be done right?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Okay, and then
why do they have to go back and then it's a political thing? And
why does a college have to even have
that? They shouldn't be in the business of this.
Yeah, agreed.
Especially when you're talking about outside of your Doogie Howser situations.
If somebody breaks into a building, if somebody steals a book, if somebody gets in a fight, but when it comes to this, they don't need to be in this business.
No, they don't.
There's students on their campus. That's why you have police. And the campus police, I understand. We've seen that some of them can, cough, turn their head and cough. But turn it over to people who do this for a living.
Well, and the other thing about they said, like, coaches don't have to immediately report. Like, if you heard something third hand and then you went to your Title IX coordinator, I think you've done your job. Mm-hmm. But if you've heard something, I heard this, I heard this, I heard that. If you've gone down the telephone line, what's the obligation point of, I heard something about it happen at a party with our guys?
Here's another thing. Schools or university campuses not required to respond to acts that allegedly occurred at off-campus locations unrelated to the university, which could be a place where they're dancing and drinking and whatever else.
Yes. So if you're a college student that lives off campus and you meet another college student and something happens,
Sean Oakman,
the college should have no burden on that. It didn't happen on their property. Yes, it did happen with their students, but if it didn't happen on their property, I don't see how that's their jurisdiction in any way at all.
Yeah, this is, again, not over. It's going to be a political battle back and forth because the Democrats have already started talking about blocking these rule changes, but the reason why this may seem extreme to the other side is because Obama's Title IX changes were so extreme the other way. And so now it's sort of swinging back a little bit, but it needed to because his Dear College letter basically told schools to not allow the accused to have any sort of a say. It was all about just, hey, you're accused, you're screwed, sorry, see ya. We have to believe everybody.
Well, and we should give credence to people who are making accusations. The problem is that if you make a law long enough where the accused has no standing, then it can turn around on you and can be used as a weapon vindictively for people who nothing happened to them, but they now know, oh, you don't want to be my boyfriend anymore? Guess what I'm going to do to you? Yep. And one of those, just one of those happening at a university is like, it might as well have happened 75 times because the 75 girls who something did happen to now are hurt because that one person decided that she was more important because she was sad a little while than all these people who've been genuinely wronged.
Yeah, and that's the minority for sure. That is something that has happened, though. I was reading a story about a girl just a couple of weeks ago, and no, it was longer back than that, but I think it was up in the north. She had a crush on a guy, accused him of sexual assault and rape because she did it because she was trying to make the guy she had a crush on jealous. So she accused a guy of raping her, thinking that it would make this other guy jealous and that he would like somehow fall, like just real crazy stuff, right?
So she brought in a guy that just happened to be another guy.
And so what
that happens.
But what that does is, even though that's a minority of things that happen, then we're gonna have Mickey Spagnola here in the next segment. But when that happens, it's like a nuclear bomb because then people go, well, see, people lie. Even though it's a minority.
Yeah, and everybody lies then. No, they don't.
The effect of it the ripple effect is ridiculous.
Yeah, I just think that, you go from Dear College and Obama, and this is not political talk in any way. It's more of just Title IX talk. But you go from Obama and Dear College where they didn't want schools questioning parties or questioning each other during hearings because it was traumatizing to the victim. And that's understandable to an extent. But it's also a very one-sided trial to where if you're accused of being guilty, you're basically screwed. And now this is opening that up a little bit more. But like I've said a few times now as we close this out, there will be, I'm sure, changes to what we've read today because there is a political fight now brewing.
Instead of it just making sense.
Yeah. Yep.
Coming up, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com on SicEm365 Radio. Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And The drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
Hi, this is Bosqueville High School football coach Clint Zander, and I am a proud listener and supporter of the all-new SicEm365 radio show with David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, with Crown Royal Peach in stock right now and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas. Our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. In today's world, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. We even offer financing. Everything's included in the price, and more importantly, you'll not get a bill in the mail later on. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule an appointment safely from home, online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI. And please remember to follow CDC guidelines and practice social distancing. Stay home, except for the essentials, and be safe, and together we'll get through this at idealmri.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Pitch out to McCormick. Good use of the blocking, but then just obliterated by Chris Miller.
Now back to SicEm365 Radio, presented by IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget. Here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
We start this 5 o'clock hour. It's been a very busy offseason for what has been a unique offseason with the Cowboys that seem to be plugging some holes and replacing some, players who have moved on, and they did lose a lot, but they have seemed to have done a pretty nice job, although there are still always things that you can do better. But Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, joins us. So they have Cameron Irving, obviously Andy Dalton. We've seen what they've done. Mickey, are they checking all the boxes?
Well, David, you know what? They checked 2 of my last 3 boxes, because when I was looking at what they've done so far and what they needed to do, I thought 2 of the things of the 3 that they really needed to work on was figure out, at least get some experience with that backup swing tackle. They do that with Cameron Irving. And then I thought, you know what, with all these veteran quarterbacks with a lot of experience out there, and it's the 1st of May, and they don't have jobs, what about just signing one of those guys, kind of a 1-year deal to be an experienced backup? And lo and behold, the Cincinnati Bengals released Andy Dalton, and he agrees to a deal that was only $900,000 more than what they were going to pay Cooper Rush. And I'm sitting there like, are you kidding me? think about it this way. Andy Dalton has as many Pro Bowl appearances as Cooper Rush has attempted passes in his career in the NFL. 3 each. So to me, that was like a moonbeam falling from the sky. It's like, absolutely. And on top of it, David, he already lives here in the off season. So I'm sure he's thinking, you know what, with all this stuff going on right now, I don't have to move to get a job, and somebody's going to give me $1 million signing bonus, and not knowing if we're even going to play or how many games we're going to play or when we're going to play. It's amazing how it just fell in their lap with Andy Dalton.
And not only that, Mick, if you look back to the 90s, the way that they did things back then, and of course it was different in the salary cap era, but they always had a quality backup when they were winning Super Bowls in the 90s.
Well, yeah, they tried to get an experienced one, and they had it until 2016 when you lose what you thought was your backup, Kellen Moore, and then you lose your starter, Tony Romo, and now Dak Prescott's the starting quarterback. Well, they did bring in Mark Sanchez for a year or so in there. So yeah, it wasn't by design to have Cooper Rush the backup quarterback. It just kind of worked out that way, and and I think Jason Garrett liked him. Obviously, they picked up his waiver claim with the Giants, and it was like, okay, let's work on this guy. But boy, when you think you've got something to go, you better have a guy sitting there waiting that's won some games in the league. And think about this. I know Dalton and Cincinnati didn't have a very good season this last year, but I'm not sure that's all on him. And if you look at his 9-year career in Cincinnati, he played 133 games. That's third most in their franchise history and one short of what Boomer Esiason played. And he had more wins than Boomer. The only guy in Cincinnati history with more wins is Ken Anderson, and he played 16 seasons. So this guy, for 5 straight years, he led them to the playoffs. And the unfortunate thing, in that 5th year, they started off 7-0, and they were 10-2 going into Game 13, and looked like they really had something going. And he fractures his thumb, misses the rest of the season. A.J. McCarron, the young quarterback, takes over. They go 2-2 to the finish and then lose first playoff game, 18-16 to Pittsburgh. So, if you look at what he's done, and there's a lot more weapons here with the Cowboys and a better offensive line than he had in Cincinnati.
Yeah, also no A.J. Green at all last year, and really for about a year and a half. Only played in 9 games 2 years prior to that, so one of his best weapons wasn't even playing. Mickey, does the schedule release do much for you whenever the time comes? Is there anything particular that you look for or look at with the schedule release later tonight?
I'm just interested to see if what we're going through with COVID-19 has any effect on the order of the games. Like, do you want to try and put more of the games at the beginning of the season, or do you want to put them at the end? But if you put them at the end and there's a second wave and you get canceled games or postponed games, I was just wondering if you start off with a bunch of division games, or do you worry about starting on time and losing games early and where you pick up? So, but yeah, other than that, it's like, we've known who they have to play, and so just the kind of order is what you find. And I'm sure the Cowboys being the Cowboys, they'll have their maximum of nationally televised games.
If they open up with the Giants, I'm going. I don't care. I'm flying, even if the plane is crowded. I'm flying to New York, and there's going to be damage.
I'll tell you what. If you were a betting man and you wanted to play the odds, well, the way things have been going with the opening with the Giants, it's probably a pretty good bet. Well, I know. Can you just do something different?
The Giants Twitter account posted a funny thing, I want to say yesterday, when it had, one of those things they do on Twitter where they like cycle through the pictures real fast and like tap, and that's who our opening opponent is gonna be. It was just 20 different Cowboys logos, really fast.
How about opening? I'm trying to remember. I think we had been talking about playing a preseason game with Vegas, but who knows what's going to happen with the preseason, right? And that usually comes out a week or two after the regular schedule. So, yeah, so much is up in the air, and I guess it's a good sign where the NFL sent the teams a letter yesterday talking about how they would like to, start phasing in opening up facilities. But again, they're not going to do it until they can open up all the facilities. They're not going to say, okay, Texas, your governor is allowing you to do this, this, and this, as opposed to what's going on in New York or California. You guys can practice or bring guys in, but we're not letting these other guys in. Everything's going to be equitable. It's either all or nothing, and it's going to be a national thing, not a state-by-state decision.
Mickey, I know you don't have the answer to this question, but seeing the release on the phases of how they're going to reopen and all that, would you say it's unlikely the Cowboys head to Oxnard for training camp this year, just your gut feel on it, or do you think that that's still something they're really going to attempt to do?
Well, I know it's still, up in the air, and the intention is to do so. There was if I remember correctly, it was this week, there was a local story quoting the city manager in Oxnard saying, we'll do whatever we need to do. If the Cowboys want to come, we'll do everything. Like, you can have the whole hotel complex. No one else will stay there. If they don't want fans watching practice, there'll be no fans watching practice. So, I just think it's too early. But I think the good thing, and Mike McCarthy talked about this during the draft, is that he's formulating two plans: one for training camp in Oxnard and one for training camp at the Star. And he pointed out in 2011, all they did was worry about when we're going to start, And he said, instead of worrying about when we're going to start, we should have made plans for, okay, this is what we'll do as soon as it starts. And if you remember in 2011, when the CBA didn't get ratified until like 2 days before the teams went to training camp, and it was a kind of a shotgun start to training camp, and they had to let the players go through almost a week of conditioning and basically a week's worth of mini camps to get guys ready to go. So that was a little bit different start, which I thought was ironic, by the way, because Andy Dalton's first year was 2011 in Cincinnati as a rookie, and Carson Palmer held out. They eventually traded him. He wanted to be traded. So here's your rookie, and he didn't get any off-season preparation with Cincinnati, and now he comes here for his second team. And who knows, there may be no off-season preparation for the start of training camp or the season, for that matter, for joining his second team.
So I'm looking at the transactions, and I honestly, this is not something that is much on my radar as much as it used to. I used to keep the depth chart. I had that Hourlad's Guide to the NFL Draft, and I would, I'd cross guys out and add names in with pencil, whatever. But of the ones they've acquired that were free agents and or veterans, the Cameron Irving or Andy Dalton, Darryl Worley, Zerline, Gerald McCoy. Who am I missing here? Don Terry Poe.
Right.
Which of them? I know the backup quarterback's like the vice president. He's one moment away from taking control. But which one of them was the best signing in your opinion?
My guess is Gerald McCoy, because number one, they really needed some depth there, and they really didn't have before the draft, right? They didn't have a legitimate starter on that team unless they had moved Tyrone Crawford inside the three technique defensive tackle. So to me, and we'll see if he's got something left, but it was good because it could be just a one-year deal. And the same thing with Poe. It could be just a one-year deal. And Poe's was 2, McCoy's was 3. Clinton Dix, 1-year deal. And so he's kind of a placeholder, hoping that you might develop somebody that could move in there. So I thought those were the most significant. But again, when I looked at it last week, it was like, well, who's my backup tackle? Because they don't have one, or at least no one that's played more than a game or two in the NFL, and that was last year as a backup. And then who's taking Robert Quinn's spot at defensive end? Maybe Alton Smith, maybe Randy Gregory. We don't know that for sure. And before the draft, until they took the kid from Utah, Anai, you're going to start Tyrone Crawford there, coming off the 2 hip surgery. Dorrance Armstrong, Jalen Jelk. The group of 4 guys that were potentially players there totaled 2 sacks last year. So that one I still think they need help with. And then, the backup quarterback thing kind of occurred to me. You're probably looking for a third running back, but it's not going to be a veteran. They'll probably get a young guy. And maybe one of those guys from TCU. You never know. You tell me how to pronounce the guy's name that's impossible. It starts with an O.
Olawani, I think it is. Yeah.
Shewo Alonalua.
Thank you. They're going to move him to fullback. And the way he runs, the way I watched, he looks like he's got fullback mentality. And if you run that hard, you probably don't mind sticking your head in there blocking. So he seems pretty versatile. He'll be interesting to keep an eye on if we ever get to training camp. But yeah, David, what they did, and the beauty of what they did in free agency is they plugged enough holes where they didn't go into the draft and say, gosh, I just got to take a cornerback, or I just got to take a defensive tackle. And they let the draft play to them. Because if you don't plug holes, you might look at it and go, I can't afford to take CeeDee Lamb. I got to take a corner in the first round, even if you didn't think that corner deserved a first-round grade. So because they re-signed Anthony Brown, they knew they had 3 corners that if the season started tomorrow, that they could go out there with 3 guys they wouldn't mind playing. Now, did you want to upgrade? Oh, absolutely. And getting Trayvon Diggs in the second and Robinson in the fourth like that gives you some depth at the quarterback position. You didn't have to jump out there on a defensive tackle. You could wait till the 3rd round and get Neville Gallimore because you had Poe and you had McCoy. They did sign Ty Forbath as a kicker. They get Zerline, and we're going to have kicking competition. We're going to go back to watching the kickers every time they go to special teams, because I think it's going to be competition. Forbath was pretty good in the 3 games he kicked for the Cowboys, and Zerline didn't have a great year last year, probably his worst in the NFL. So that'll be interesting. But what I'm saying is they kind of just plug things along, and by re-signing some of their guys, they weren't desperate to go into the draft for any one position. Now, we'll see how defensive end plays out. But you know what? If you look at your little list, David, I guarantee you there's a bunch of veterans out there. What is it? Is it May 6th, 7th right now?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have a job? I'm sure Andy Dalton looked at it and go, it's May 1. I don't have a job. And who knows if I'm going to have a paycheck. They're going to give me $1 million signing bonus? Heck yeah, I'll do this for a year, and I don't have to move. So I'm guessing some of these other defensive ends, they're going to look at it and say, maybe I can get one of those 1-year prove-it deals, and if I get in there and play well, I can do what Robert Quinn did this year and turn it into a lengthy, big contract. It might be my last one. So I would imagine they keep their eyes out for that. Now, I'm sure the fans out there are saying, well, Jadeveon Clowney's still out there. Well, sounds like he wants to make $21 million a year. Well, that ain't happening here. But if you would like to make $3 or $4 million with a bunch of incentives, hey, bring them on, right? And there's other guys out there like Marcus Golden, and so my guess is they'll do something like that, and especially now that the the regular roster, when they get to it, is going to be 55 this year. So you got a little bit more leeway in there, a little more wiggle room to maybe bring on somebody that you're not sure of at first, and then see what happens.
Mickey, thank you. Every Thursday, usually at 4:30. Today, Mickey joined us here in the start, the 5 o'clock hour, DallasCowboys.com. That's Mickey Spagnola with us on SicEm365 Radio. Grayson Grundhafer with the premium section, the breaking news on the Denton Guyer defensive end. Craig mentioned it, Cooper Lands. 80 tackles, 24 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, caused a couple of fumbles. They were in the state championship game and lost to Shadow Creek, led by the quarterback, Kyron Drones.
Yeah, and also Seth Jones, right, wide receiver for Baylor that signed in 2020. But I had an NFL scheduling update as we know the first game that's been announced, and I wanted to know if you guys are curious as to wanting to know what that first game will be.
I am.
Chiefs against the 49ers?
Close. Chiefs and Texans will be
the
big game right out of the gates. Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes.
Well, and that will be Bill O'Brien trying to explain all week long. Like, listen, I know we had a big lead.
Yeah.
I thought the decisions were good.
I thought we were in control there, but John McClain actually broke that news, saying the Texans are going to open at Kansas City on Thursday night versus the defending, reigning Super Bowl champions. So Watson Mahomes right out of the gates on a Thursday night, week 1.
Well, great. Now I have no reason to watch, John.
Yeah, thanks for spoiling the schedule party.
It's a refreshing game because it's not – the Chiefs are still a new team.
It's not Patriots and somebody.
Yeah. All right, coming up next, 5:20, more on Cooper Lands, the commitment from Denton Guyer. Who knows? Maybe even he will join us. I don't know. Just throwing it out there, right? Tomorrow, Mike Renfro. Grayson Grundhafer will, of course, discuss this commitment, and also former Oklahoma All-American and Cowboys and Falcons defensive tackle Tony Casillas, among others. This is SicEm365 Radio.
Are you in the market for a new home, or are you trying to sell your home? Are you looking to upsize or downsize? You'll need a realtor in your corner that can guide you through anything you'll encounter. Contact my good friend Lance Donaldson and the Donaldson family team, brokered by eXp Realty. Let them be your go-to source as you search for that perfect home. Lance is a great guy, funny guy you want to be around, hang out with. He's also a fantastic listener, which means he's going to hear everything you have to say about what you want out of a new home and what you want out of selling your home. And he's going to get as close to the mark as he possibly can, and he's going to hear things, and he's probably going to discover some things that you didn't even think about when you were asking about it, because that's what Lance does. Give him a call, 254-214-3713, or visit his webpage, lancedonaldson.exprealty.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Live crawfish is back. The 30-pound bags of live crawfish, as delicious as you can imagine, back at Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. $3 a pound, 30-pound live crawfish bags are available. You order by Thursday at noon. You can pick up your customized order anytime on Friday afternoon until 6 p.m. And the drive-thru now open at Waco Custom Marketplace Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can still order what you want from their butcher shop, including beef and poultry, seafood, and also pork. And, of course, their bakery. You can order from their bakery. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com, or go by the drive-thru. Waco Custom Marketplace, live crawfish available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine has their easy-to-access drive-thru open and convenient and clean in-store location on the corner of Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street in Waco. Riverbend Liquor has the best and most extensive variety of craft beer selections in Waco, with Crown Royal Peach in stock right now and Balcones Whiskey, including single malt, pot still, baby blue, French oak, rye, and brimstone. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, family-owned and operated, and a hidden gem in Waco on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street. And find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recalled drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com, principal office in Houston, Texas.
Do you love Friday Night Lights? Would you like to have a bigger role than just watching the action to ensure the games are played fairly and safely? The Waco football chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO, can make that happen. The 2020 Texas high school football season is right around the corner, and we need you to be a part of it. There's a shortage of officials across the state in all sports, and you can help. If you love the game and want to be a part of the solution, you can help our local student athletes continue to participate in games they love. Never officiated before? Don't worry. Waco Football Chapter can help and prepare you to make the right call. And right now, Introduction to Football Officiating class is accepting registrations. Make your first grade call today by looking us up and contacting us on Facebook at Waco Football Chapter or at our website, wacofootballchapter.com. Find out more about the Waco Football Chapter of the Texas Association of Sports Officials, or TASO. Go to wacofootballchapter.com.
We are facing some unique challenges at this time. We want to do our part to support not only our community, but our medical providers who are really overtasked right now. Governor Greg Abbott has required dental offices to postpone all elective dental procedures, but still be available for dental emergencies. At this time, dental emergencies are those that are defined as something that would make somebody consider going to the emergency room for treatment. We're offering to see you at our office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 to noon, and we will waive all fees. We're doing this to support the community and support the medical system. This will allow the overtasked medical community to focus on the truly needy at this time. In the midst of what seems to be so much gloomy news, we want to send a positive signal of our faith in our community and in each other. We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We are all in this together.
We're 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 all in this together. We are all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together.
We're all in this together. Thank you and God bless.
This is SicEm365 Radio. The SicEm365 Radio call-in line segment is sponsored by Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, where curbside pickup and drive-thru are now available. Next in line.
You know, it's interesting because so many businesses, when all of everything started to happen, I guess, early March, and some reacted to it, and now there's starting to be a little bit of this where there's more opportunities, and still people being you think, not everyone, but everyone trying to be as smart as they possibly can. And
I just want us to be as smart as we can so we can get sports back.
Yeah,
that's my thing.
I don't want to hit the reboot button.
Let's just be as smart as we can so we can get sports back.
However that happens.
Which is why I was pretty much willing to do whatever it took. Because baseball's already gone from my life right now, and it hurts. And I'm watching Korean League baseball, and I'm thinking about which team am I going to really root for, and then I don't want to get invested in them because then I already have too much wrapped up emotionally in the Red Sox. What if I get obsessed with some Korean League baseball team? Where does it end for me?
Right.
I don't know. I just want normalcy back, and I'll do whatever it takes so that I can watch a game. Especially I can watch a game, I can go on a vacation, and I can go to a ballpark like I like to do that I've never been to before.
It would be nice to see the Rangers ballpark for the very first time.
Yeah, how about that?
Everybody.
Yeah. You have what they're trying to do in L.A., with that.
Yeah.
And then you have Vegas with that. And then you have the Rangers. And, I mean, it's these – there's a lot of commitment to these deals.
One of the stories that I gave you was Jeff Passan is that how you say it? I always forget.
Passan.
Gosh, I don't know why I was trying to make his name sound fancier than it is. Jeff Passan. He had reported last night that the submission for the return to play proposal that MLB's been coming up with should be submitted to the Players Association within the next week. So as far as just a little update on Major League Baseball and sort of where they stand, yes, they are going to submit that within the next few days to the Players Association, their idea for returning to play. And the thought is that you could have, if this were to be okayed and were to happen all relatively quickly, that there could be a resumption of spring training that could begin in either mid-June, or that would begin, I guess, in this particular outline in mid-June with the players returning to actual games sometime in early July. So that's where the idea is sort of right now. And apparently all the rumors, no matter how much weight they actually carry or not, all seem to be kind of looking at that July period for baseball's return. So there's the latest on the major leagues and what they are eyeing as far as just a season being had at some point in 2020.
There seems to be a lot of these, at least, timelines, even if they have to be changed or moved back or what.
Yeah, let's not sit on our hands here. Let's come up with multiple plans. In fact, as stressful as it would be, I might kind of enjoy that if I was a logistics person that was, in charge of this in a league. I would probably thrive in a situation where, okay, come up with a plan for us to start on July 1st. Come up with a plan for us to start on August 1st. Come up with a plan to, to have a 50-game season that ends on December 1st.
Baseball has already lost the entire month of April, part of the week of March, and they're surely not going to play in May. So that's right there about 65 to 70 games.
Some may argue this could be a blessing, and you see a shorter baseball season, and everybody goes, let's do 80 games all the time. That was awesome in comparison to 162.
I've always wondered, they used to have 154. And then all of a sudden it became 162, and a lot of it might have been with expansion or what they do. The NFL season at one point was 12. 12 games.
Now we're going to
Imagine
17.
Jim Brown was doing all what he did in a 12-game season.
Well, and the NBA is already trying to figure out how to improve their
season
the season because, or if they play the same amount of stuff, maybe you have that tournament thing that they were talking about that can maybe help you with your draft, whatever it is.
Mid-season tournament.
The mid-season tournament or you start out instead of before the season, the real regular season starts on Christmas. But there's a short preseason and then you just play a tournament in that November
They're
time.
trying to be like soccer. They're trying to be like the Premier League, and that's where their ideas are coming from. I think the NBA, as you can tell, is trying to come up with any idea possible to try to get some interest back because the ratings were not good. And granted, that was regular season, and had LeBron and the Lakers kept doing what they were doing, and the big showdown in LA were to have happened in the postseason, I'm sure that would have gotten great ratings, and everybody said, "Oh no, the NBA is fine," but their regular season is not fine. Their regular season is almost absolutely pointless to watch at certain times. And I'm an NBA fan, but I don't need 82 regular season games. I know the diehards probably want 100, but they really don't need it. They don't need to have 82 regular season games to get to the same endpoint that they get to now. So I'd be all for starting on Christmas. I don't know too many people who really care all that much about what happens in October and November, December basketball, November, December. So I would be all for that. But yeah, the NBA is certainly one of those leagues right now that outside of just the typical COVID concerns and maneuvering around that people are trying to do and figure out, they are already kind of looking to change anyways, just to try to get a little bit of a spark going.
Yeah, and look, I love college basketball. I love it. I go cover those games in November where Baylor plays whoever, because a lot of them are fun to watch. But
Arizona.
Those are fun. I would rather just see college basketball start on December 1st.
And guess what? I think a lot of coaches would not mind that. And I've heard both Scott Drew and Kim Mulkey even bring that up. They have condensed the schedule, but start it late. Play still a lot of games, but move them into January, and you also then, I think, might help with your attendance with some of those games early on.
If you are, I mean, just think of it this way. If the Baylor men play in Texas, and we've had this when we were at the station all the time, the stress of high school football on a Friday night, if you are opening your season, even if it's against McMurray or whoever you're going to play on a Friday night in Texas, you're not going to have many people in the stands.
Right.
Lady Bears or otherwise. People are just there, for the Lady Bears, their grandkids are playing in the high school playoffs. They may not have another chance to see them. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. So you have that you're competing against. And then if they have a home football game that next day, are you going to go to an 8 o'clock tip-off and then say the kickoff for football is at 11 o'clock? Are you going to do that? Probably not. And you're also not going to get your people that come down from Dallas or up from Houston to catch that game for the most part because they're just doing Saturday.
Well, I mean, if we were ever going to use the time to do what maybe would be better, it's take away 20 or so regular season baseball games, shorten the NBA by 10, 15, 20 games regular season-wise, start college basketball in December, start the NBA post-Christmas, all these different things. We have a prime opportunity right now to fix a lot of things, and fix may not be the word that everybody would use, but to potentially improve a lot of things that we've been talking about for years and years and years, and just nobody ever does because, hey, why break tradition? The NBA always starts before Christmas, so they have to start before Christmas. Well, why? And now that we have this, well, let's see if it's not better the other way. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I think that there's certainly some potential there, but I don't know if the leagues will be all in to go ahead and make forever-type changes in the midst of having to make choices right now. You know what I mean?
On the Riverbend Liquor and Wine text line, Leon mentioned about when we were talking about the Title IX, it's human nature. We're too stupid and spoiled to ever just get things right rather than worrying about what's one side or the other. We need a vaccine, boys. Yeah, obviously.
Amen, Leon.
Something like that would help, too.
I think television is hurting our international perspective on how long it takes to do a vaccine because you can watch a show and it takes the length of the show to do it.
Well, Kiefer Sutherland, saved the world, 24 hours at a time. And
exactly.
We get a vaccine overnight. But I did see some actual positive news on that front. Have you seen where my gosh, Woodrow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Have y'all seen where, what kind of animal was it? But there was an animal, I want to say it was like a sheep or a goat, and now I can't remember, but could be the saving grace when it comes to coronavirus. They found some antibodies in this animal and feel like there's some positive momentum that could lead to, some potential vaccines being developed because apparently what they discovered, at least in this particular animal example, was it had a very high efficiency of blocking out the corona cells. So, the good news is hey, maybe there's this saving grace we've been looking for. The not so great news is that it's still going to take a lot of time, and they have to do clinical trials and, test it on animals and then humans as well, which takes time. But, hey, still looking for a bright spot where we can get one. So maybe animals will be our saving grace, or this particular animal breed will be our saving grace when all is said and done.
Isn't that where it started? Mm-hmm. Isn't that where this might have come from, an animal?
Some people think it's like a bat or something, but
it's very poor conditions in Chinese meat markets in Wuhan is basically the epicenter, and just the way they handle meat and all the germs and things like that, it's ripe for contamination and things like that. So that's where they think it all started.
When we come back, we'll discuss that commitment again from Denton Guiders Cooper Lance with Baylor. Next on SicEm365 Radio. One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In March, Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac was celebrating 21 years, so now here in May, they're celebrating 21 years, 1 month, and some change, and they're doing so by being the people that you can count on. Richard Carr's employees are the people you can count on each day. They can get you in a car or truck safely and on your terms. And with our current situation, they're being mindful of that as well. You walk into their showroom, feel free to know that it's disinfected daily, so you don't have to worry about, they're not cleaning around here or doing any of that. No, the showroom is disinfected daily. Employee health is closely monitored. Hands are washed and disinfected with great frequency. And if you're still worried about it, Richard Carr's sales staff will bring a car to you for a test drive, and they can complete financing online. Right now, check out the all-new 2020 Buick Encores and Enclaves in stock, 0% for 84 months for qualified buyers, plus anniversary savings. They also have the 2020 GMC line of Sierras, Terrains, Canyons, and Acadias. They're all 0% for 84 months for qualified buyers, plus Richard Carr anniversary savings. They're your local family dealer, and they're also proud Baylor Bear alumni, and they want the chance to earn your business. Great prices, free oil changes with a new purchase, and in-town priority warranty service all comes with your purchase at Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac.
SicEm365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line. Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer and Baylor alum David Willis and Baylor alum Parker Willis are ready to help if you or a loved one has been wrongfully injured in an auto accident, SUV rollover, industrial accident, 18-wheeler crash, or were seriously injured by a defective product or recall drug. Call them for a confidential and free case consultation at 1-800-GOT-HURT or visit them at texastriallawyer.com. Principal office located in Houston, Texas.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction with a team of 24 experienced agents who are excited about serving you. Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Waco, Texas, a place with its own unique history and a future bright with promise. Full of remarkable growth and opportunity, and what makes it all work is its people, families, raising children, growing businesses. Wacoans are hardworking with a passion for what's next, and we're proud to be from here, helping Waco to grow and prosper. We are the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Dr. Kent Petty wants you to be the highest performance man you want to be. Are you sluggish, lack energy? Do you suffer from low sex drive? Petty Clinic Low T offers discounted comprehensive lab work to check on your various levels that can make a difference. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy and stamina and improved sex drive, but also the healthiest and high performance man. Screening for cardiac heart disease risk, EKG, cholesterol panel, blood pressure monitoring, testosterone or growth hormone deficiency, male infertility, hepatitis C, and prostate cancer screening. Petty Clinic Low T offers replacement therapy for testosterone or growth hormones, weight management therapy, and nutritional advice. It's not only time for you to be the man you want to be with higher energy, stamina, and improved sex drive, but the healthiest and highest performance man. PettyClinicLowT.com, PettyClinicLowT.com on Old Hewitt Road, just off Highway 84 in Woodward. PettyClinicLowT.com.
This is SicEm365 Radio.
Next week, we'll have Baylor defensive coordinator Brian Stewart on the show. Today, we've heard from a Hall of Famer in James Lofton, a former Baylor great in Robert Blackmon. We've also had writers that cover college football and the Cowboys. And Well, former Cowboys wide receiver Butch Johnson. We're now joined by Cooper Lands of Denton Ryan, who is the latest to be the commitment.
Denton Geyer.
Denton, what did I say?
You said Ryan.
Oh, my God.
Oh, he's going to hang up the phone.
Hey, Cooper, please, don't hang up on us.
You're all good.
My God, what am I thinking? I'm sorry about that. Hey, first of all, can you kind of take us through the journey of you and Baylor, how this all began, and the fact that you are now committed to Dave Aranda and company?
So it probably started about 2 weeks ago when they started talking to me, and Baylor's always been one of the schools I've had my eyes on. Pretty close to home, great facilities, winning program. So when I got the offer, I was super pumped, and I knew it was right for me.
So Cooper, as a defensive end, you obviously, playing for a coach like Dave Aranda must be a big hook for you because he has such a good defensive mind. Was that it? What else was a deciding factor for you, coaching staff wise?
So Coach McGuire actually recruited my brother, and they had a pretty good relationship. So Coach McGuire has been super cool to me, and we built a pretty good relationship and just awesome coaching staff.
It's too bad though, Cooper. Joey doesn't have a lot of energy, does he?
No, he definitely has a lot.
Yeah, he does. So you mentioned your brother. Is your brother celebrating with you today, or is there a rivalry that's already developed? Because for those that don't know, your brother is at TCU, correct?
Yes, sir.
So
he's definitely excited for me, but you can tell there's a little tension going on right now.
Starting to look at you a little side-eyed.
Yeah, is that often something you guys do? Like, do you do different things just for the competitive nature of it?
We're definitely always pretty competitive with each other. Definitely going to have a pretty divided house this year.
Yeah, did you learn much when you said that Coach McGuire recruited your brother? What did you notice when that was going on? What did you notice of, and you know Joey McGuire because of his success in high school up there, but what did you notice about him?
He had a great personality. He's always upbeat, just a great guy, and just someone I want to play for, along with Coach Aranda.
This is now a staff that even during these times, landing recruits. There were a couple last week, a quarterback and a lineman.
Yeah, and then a couple this week.
And a couple this week, and they're able to do this even under these conditions, which I'm sure is difficult. How do you make connections during these times? I know you can have the virtual meetings, whatever else. How difficult has that been, or has it actually?
It's definitely been tough not being able to see the campus, but I've been up there for a camp, so I've seen some of the facilities, which has helped a lot. But just talking on the phone has helped, and they've been sending me some stuff about Baylor.
Coach Aranda's got that defensive background, and obviously what did at LSU. What have you learned about him? He's a very quiet, but you hear about how he's basically almost this defensive mind that's amazing. Have you been able to see any of that when you've had any conversations with him?
Yes, sir. He just seems super intelligent, knows what he's talking about.
Cooper, what have they talked to you about, or what are your expectations as far? I know you got to play a senior year first, but as far as position-wise, what they like about you, what they're looking for you to do once you get in the green and gold?
Definitely on the defensive side, some DN and maybe the hybrid linebacker under Coach McGuire, and just some of that play some both.
What is your strength? Not physical strength. What's your strength as a football player?
I definitely play the run really good. So I have a pretty strong. I definitely need to work on my pass rush, but I'm getting better at that.
You had 8 sacks, 24 tackles for losses, forced a couple of fumbles. Were those like strip sacks on the quarterback when you forced those?
I think I had 2 strip sacks.
Okay. Well, it seems like your pass rush is doing pretty well.
Pass rush doing okay. Hey, it gives us even better. But Cooper, how much you mentioned that you had been interested in Baylor previously, but how much were you watching them this past season? And if you were, what were your thoughts on the big year 3 they had under Matt Rule?
Just they had a great defense, just winning, and which caught my eye a lot. Love to play for a winning program.
So what does this mean? What did today mean to you, if you could kind of put it into words?
Wait, what do you mean by that?
What does it mean to just get the commitment out of the way? What did today mean to you and the family?
I'm in a ton. Just for me and my family, we're all excited, ready to play at the next level and be a Bear.
And argue with his brother over Baylor and TCU, so that'll be a lot of fun.
All right. Cooper, I just clicked on a video on your Twitter timeline of you cleaning a bunch of weight in your garage. How much was that?
That was $295 for power clean.
Just $295. Just
a little $295. You know, this got to throw it up every once in a while.
$295.
Have you had any unique ways of working out during this time? I've seen some that have taken, like, for example, a backpack and put sand in it to put it on each side of a bar. Did you have a pretty good setup, or have you guys been, somewhat creative?
We've been fortunate enough. We actually have a full weight rack in our house with plenty of weights, so it's been a lot like lifting at school. So been super lucky with that.
When TCU in 2 years plays Baylor, what colors do your mom and dad wear?
So we've actually already talked about this. They said they're gonna whatever who's home is actually gonna be.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
They're gonna wear.
So your mom's not gonna have a shirt sewn together that's like half one and half the other.
We've talked about that too. We haven't really decided yet.
Yeah,
but they better have some green and gold on.
Yeah, you got some time before she needs to worry about that, but I'm sure they will. That's gonna be a lot of fun, and I've seen that before. I think like the Tejadas had brother at TCU and a brother at Baylor when they played a couple years ago. So it's pretty unique and cool when that happens, and got to be a lot of fun for the parents as well. Unfortunately, both sons are relatively close by each other, so that's good as well. Cooper, just as far as your senior season, I know so many things are in question right now, but what's kind of your mentality? Are you preparing as though everything is normal and that you're expecting to get back to it in August, or just what's sort of your mindset and I guess your program's mindset right now?
Yes, sir. Definitely working harder than ever. Just definitely have the mindset, thinking we're going to play, and just getting ready for next season and be even better.
You beat Spring Westfield in the semifinals. We saw them. They beat Midway maybe the week or two before that, and we know how good they were. And that was a dominant win for you, 35-17. And now you're loaded up. You beat Cedar Hill in the postseason. We know how they are. And now, of course, you had Westlake at the end. They had one heck of a team. How much does the way the season ended, how much has that fueled you and your teammates in the offseason?
Definitely fueled us a lot. We've been working super hard this off season to know how close we were, and the feeling of us losing just makes us even more hungry for to go get a ring next year.
Thank you, Cooper, for jumping on with us, man. We appreciate it. Congratulations. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Cooper Lands of Denton Geyer.
Yes, make sure you get that right.
Oh man! And then you said that wrong, and then I look into this picture of this kid cleaning 295 pounds. Yeah. I was kind of worried about you.
I heard in the background, I heard it. Yeah. They opened up last year. They beat Aledo. And that, of course, that's unbelievable. They beat Cedar Hill twice during the season.
It is amazing what happens when Aledo plays somebody.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Westfield.
They're a dominant program.
We know how good Westfield was. We saw that firsthand. And then, of course, they finished up the loss to Westlake that was very good. Man.
What did Westfield do after they beat Midway? I forget. Did they win that next week? Because Midway, that was, the third round of the playoffs already, right?
They beat Midway 38-7, and they were, without question, better.
Yeah.
The next week, they're the ones that knocked out E.J. Smith and Jesuit, who had been the Cinderella team in the 6A playoffs, 38-28. So they won their next game, then lost to Geyer in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, they just, going back to Spring Westfield, they just completely overwhelmed Midway, just completely overwhelmed them, and they were definitely the better team that day. But, yeah, Denton Geyer was a really, really good team, and Lands was part of that. And it's always good, as I said to somebody on Twitter a little while ago, when you can beef up the lines. Obviously it's projections, and you're going off of potential, but Cooper Lands has got a lot of potential. He's got good size, and I know that they've already got some good young D linemen on campus that are going to be, having to take it up another notch this year with all of they lost up front, but I'm confident that they will be able to do that with guys like Gabe Hall and TJ Franklin and with this coaching staff as well. So always like to see guys getting added up front, and now they've picked up a guy on each side of the front here over the last few days with not only this commitment this afternoon on the defensive side, but Connor Heffernan on the offensive line side just a day or so ago. So they've been very active. They had a 2022 commit a couple days ago. They've had a handful of 2021 commits over the last 2-3 weeks, and the only thing I don't like about it is that Grayson Grundhafer and I, we record our podcast on Thursdays now, and it seems like every time we've recorded one for 3 weeks in a row, and we talk about these new commitments that have come in, there's a new commit as soon as we get done recording.
So you did that earlier today?
It happened today, yeah. So we will not have any Cooper Lands talk tomorrow or later tonight when the podcast drops, but that's just the way that it's been, and hey, it's a good problem to have.
Well, and Grayson is all into this, as you are, Craig, but Grayson had it up on the board. Of course, Cooper put it up on his Twitter handle that he committed to Baylor. And 6'4", 240, his brother's like 295. Pretty big kid, offensive lineman, I think it is. Is that right, at TCU?
I think so, yeah.
All right, thanks to Cooper Lance. Appreciate him getting on the show with us. TJ Reed at Bleed Orange 82 on Twitter with a direct message to me, yet another snake picture.
Oh, very nice.
He goes,
it's
that time of the year.
Smoke.
He sends that direct message. TJ's a great man. He is as loyal as we have.
Here's what I love about TJ. He's taken a lot of work and stress off of my plate because my Google News alerts for snake-related news, I don't really have to worry about that anymore.
He's going to get you. He's going to get you with the snake video.
Because he's taking that off my back, because that was something that I took on for many years. Anytime there was a news story about a snake in a toilet, no matter how far away in the world it was, it got sent to Smokey's phone.
Yeah, well, it's he and some others, too. Others have jumped on that, and anytime they see a snake video of some sort, they send it to him.
The last one I saw that was prior to TJ sending this monstrosity of a rattlesnake that looks like it's 8 feet long. The other, may have been yesterday, somebody sent this to me, and it was of some guys out on the lake, and there's a raft that's like a flat raft, almost looks like a workout mat, but it's a big one. So here you see the snake kind of coming towards the bank, and there's 2 or 3 guys there, and, of course, they got a beer in their hand or whatever. One guy comes walking up behind it, which I don't know if it was a water snake or a copperhead. Well, a moccasin. Picks it up by the tail and just starts toying with it above the water. And he said, okay, I'm done with this, and he throws it out towards the lake, and it lands on the mat where his friends were there. And they just like, poof, they're gone.
Yeah. I am not scared of snakes like that, but if just one came through the air and landed on like my picnic blanket, I think I'd flip out.
I would have left something else on the mat.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of things that you wouldn't be scared of, but like I'm not scared of moths, but the other day I opened the door and one flew like into my ear and I didn't know what it was. And if you had seen me react, you would have thought that like it was some sort
of killer wasps they're talking about.
Those murder hornets or whatever.
Murder hornets.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I don't discredit those people's
what
fear.
What else is left?
Yeah.
I mean, like
what do you?
The UFOs also are now. We've confirmed that
we need. I think if there was ever a time that the UFOs are not going to attack us, it's probably right now.
You're like, yeah, you guys aren't worth it right now.
That's true.
Let y'all deal with that.
No, we're not going to kick you while you're
Come
down.
back when everything's good again.
Yeah. When you're fat and happy.
Oh, man.
Well, he was a good young man to have on, and just made his commitment a few hours ago. So I'm sure it's a big, exciting day. That really is going to be fun. He'll probably get tired of hearing about he and his brother and the rivalry and all of that, but at least early on, that's got to be pretty fun to have that little back and forth with your brother. So that'll be really cool to see once he gets on campus. Next year, obviously, he's got a senior year to play before that. But I really like what Dave Aranda and company have done in recruiting. I mean, Matt Rule and them recruited really well, but there's just kind of a difference. Like there's just sort of a difference with this staff and who they're recruiting, and there's similarities, but I don't know. There's just something different I can't put my finger on quite yet, but they're off to a great start in 2021 and now 2022 as well, so we'll see where it takes them.
By the way, I agree, and they just kind of slowly are building this recruitment class off. Again, the NCAA, Kansas has been sent to violations or whatever.
Yeah, they're
apparently going to release their response tomorrow.
The football allegations were level 2 and level 3. The basketball ones, Self, Townsend are disputing each of 5 level 1 violations regarding the men's basketball program. They hammered them, but as we have said, okay. we'll see if anything comes out of it. So that's KU basketball, and also the deal that involved Adidas and much more.
Yeah, the NCAA seems like that teacher you have that pretends to be like, oh, I'm gonna, if you guys don't stop talking, okay, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
We all had one.
Well, the next time you talk again, I'm going to really get you. No, you're not. Yeah. Now the NCAA is what it is at this point, and it's been this way, I think, in the eyes of the public now for a few years, of where they've seemed it more often than not very toothless and unsure of what they're even doing.
See, what the NCAA needs is what I had in Catholic school, is if there was ever a teacher who didn't have any discipline, they would just nun it up, and they would send nun it up.
Oh.
None. So you get nunned, and then so you have this teacher who's easy and lets you do whatever you want, but if you take advantage of it, she's gone, and you've got a nun, and then your life is over.
Yeah.
Thanks to the following guests: James Lofton, Hall of Fame wide receiver; Robert Blackmon, former All-American defensive back at Baylor. By the way, one of the names when we mentioned McElroy, Blackmon, Gary
Everett.
Green, and Thomas Everett. Gary Baxter's in that mix, no question, of course. Max Olson, Butch Johnson, Mickey Spagnola, and Cooper Lands of Denton Geyer, who just committed to Baylor earlier this afternoon. For Dylan Chapman, for Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoke, I'm David Smoke. Thank you for listening whenever you do. Our sponsors make this happen, and good night.